And another special marching yours truly. We're gonna march on this heat wave towards the sun. Leaving late. Did 2 laundry loads, so that took me some hours of labor. Did some of that YouTube work, some of that email work, some of that meditation work, and on the toes. A bit sore, took a cold bath, not a long one, but half an hour one, and always this march is dedicated to my allies and armies. Pledge your allegiance to our family, and the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, construction workers, those who picked up those bins that you see there. Those bins contain compost, and I did mine, and I put already mine back in because I guess they came early today. And in 2018 I had the opportunity to actually work on that project for a few months, like 4 months, and quite enjoyed it, and did both delivering the bins and outreach and community education and distribution of pamphlets and door to door to explain the new program when it's no longer new, right? It's been 6 years since it came into effect, and I worked in 2019 on the project to bring the compost in, these bins right here, and I just put my composting out, and I guess they just passed and did that composting rock and roll for those who picked up the bins, always for the firefighters, plumbers, electricians, the bakers, beautiful flowers, craving a massage therapy session. I almost didn't go marching today, but said, hey, somebody on the firefighters, the truckers must be sore also, but transporting our goods, and the ambulance workers and all other general workers, you know, they must also have a little bit of that soreness, and gotta get that solidarity for the 63, 10, the 50, and the 3, and here we go, marching in the sun. Special heat wave, reached 33 degrees. Heat wave ends tomorrow, but I guess it restarts again Sunday, because we're supposed to get another heat wave, so I'm assuming this is like the 4th heat wave, but considering that we had a heat wave in June, case in point is that it's a heat wave, heat warning today until about after sunset. So always important to stay hydrated. Although financially stressed, I gotta be grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and here I always gotta turn my head left and right. Although you got priority, you know, you gotta assure yourself that you pass the street in a prudent manner, and pass the street concomitantly, prudently, and of course without being impeding anybody else's circulation, and of course without getting harmed in the process, neither the driver nor the citizen. So it's always a prudent and an added responsibility, duty, and obligation when one is in the public, because I could have stayed home and I would have had less responsibilities, duties, and obligations, but I choose, of course, to go work out, train, exercise, to get a little bit of that SUN. My king, the Pope, the sun. I guess we're gonna zigzag this in the sun and in and out, and super important, I guess, to stay a lot on that hydration as much as we can and enjoy the day. And always love to see children joyous in the park. They were, it was an event, I guess, children and families, I guess, but it was theatrical, so that was a little bit of the fun. But I was just busy doing a few loads of laundry, and somebody donated 3 new towels made in Canada. Gotta show off, and I didn't do a little video, but I'm gonna do it and show off a little bit the made in Canada towels, because you know we got that Canada tatted up 24/7, you know, for Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, for the empire, and It's hot. It's hot, hot, hot. And on a heat day like this, heat wave, it's important to just stay hydrated. I don't mind the heat. It's actually something that doesn't bother me, It's not a problem for me, heat waves and, this type of degrees. But I guess further it is. My problem right now, my only problem is economic, commercial, financial. Money, 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 money. I'm broke, but paid my rent for the month of July. Paid my electricity bill. I got a few more days to pay my phone bill, and I saved I won't be late. I'm just gonna clock it in exactly on time, I guess, or maybe go Sunday, 4 days before the deadline. But today's the 24th, and it's for that child. I guess symbolically for my son and daughters, my children of the empire, If you're a millionaire, billionaire, give some charity and finance others to do some work, whether rehabilitation work, artistic work, or construction work, or cooking work, or cleaning work, or any other type of WORK, I'm all about Arbeit myself, but meaning that my neurodivergence is sometimes impeding the full construction of bridges with you, the vast majority of the population, the 99.56%, and me, part of the community of Aspies, people who live with Asperger's, and which is not a mental illness. It is a neurological, mental divergent condition. It just makes us predisposed to those special types of interests, and whenever we're involved in those interests, we're super dedicated, super intense, super concentrated, sometimes unfortunately to the detriment of other matters of society, such as socializing and acquiring more social skills, which Aspies sometimes we lack those innate type of abilities of you, the 99.56%, and we have our strengths, you have your strengths, we have our, and we got to build those bridges, the small bridges, medium bridges, big bridges, extra large bridges. I guess those 4 categories. Look at those beautiful flowers there. Those 4 categories of bridges can be, again, have 4 subcategories, or 4 main categories, then 3 subcategories, I guess, to each. And that's what we gotta build, because has been a road of refuse myself. In many years I've been diagnosed by several citizens and individuals, and I've been told, you have Asperger's for many years. I've refused it. I don't want to admit it because it's, it's still a type of a stigma. Less and less. But there's still some stigma associated to being an Aspian, having Asperger's, which again, it's not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition. It makes, predisposed to those special interests, and those special interests is something which we have to congruently do on that, and that's what we have to do. And we are faced with 3 main problems as Aspies. The 3 main problems is lack of friends. For me, it's only friends with benefits from now on, and that's how we do, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll, and that's how we gotta get it on that drill, man. And that is what it is. And yeah, look at those beautiful flowers. Those are nice, Those are nice. Those are nice, and those are getting on that drill, and that's what we got to the consequential matters of the civilizational complex, of which we fundamentally are aware of, and fundamentally we have to work on between myself, yeah, and you, the 99.56%, with which we constantly have to build bridges. whether small bridges, medium bridges, big bridges, extra large bridges, and sometimes subcategories to those bridge building activities. And ASPEs, again, where it's not a mental illness, it is a neurological mental divergent condition. It just makes us predisposed to special interests. And see somebody put some donations there you can take and enjoy. Now, is that something to save money, I guess? Maybe save money to buy a ring, I guess. I'm gonna ask them again, but it's gonna be the. I guess I can take it because I'm broke, but if I can put, if I give more work, and arbeit, I guess I can save some. Gonna put that there and see what we got there. Whole wheat. We got some bread, and somebody put some of that bread, which is good. And we're gonna take some. Yes, we can take some bread. Thank you. So you got those 4 for you. You can come and enjoy those things. And see, there's a little bit of that activity going down there. Put this in the backpack, and then rock and roll all the way to the mountain. Special edition. Needs to be a little bit dusty, but put the money aside, and it's kind of cute, I guess. It adds up if you put. Oh, it has here, so you can retrieve it from the back. So we went in. So that's all we gotta go. That's all we gotta appellate, and that's all we gotta get on that love. And see. I can do it, and they can do it, and that's it. So you got some bread in that fridge. Thank you for those who make a little bit of that work for the food security. Always grateful, thankful to the truckers who do the transportation. It takes that love and takes those muscles, and it's good that we have here this in community, community aspects. And that's all we got. And thank you for this bread, the bakers, and of course it took the wheat to produce it. And it's of course best before July 22nd, July 24th today, but if it was frozen, it can still be eaten by Saturday. Probably gonna eat it. And this, I don't know what this is. They look like a little cookies. I'll check, yeah. Oh yeah, they're cookies, eh? Let me see. Blue croissants with sugar and lemon. So that's what it is, and that's where we go, and that's where we gotta get that drill, Oh yeah, those gonna be my treats when I come back. It's a happy birthday event for my unknown children, I guess. Children. Today's the 24th of July. Month of Leo begins, and we got that lion. And thank you to my anonymous friend who donated this bag. Thank you, my anonymous friend who donated this bag. Enough of my face again. But now we're gonna focus on what's more important. The city. Walking with prudence, and so grateful that cookies, that's gonna be my treat, my reward, I guess, to eat after I come back from the mountain. And it's gonna be a workout. Always encourage people to work out, to train, and to exercise, which has been is and will be my medicine and therapy of choice, and it's 24/7 for the butchers, for the bakers, for the plumbers, for the electricians, for the firefighters, for those doctors, for the grocery store clerks, warehouse workers, construction workers on the road, and those plumbers and those electricians, and all those, of course, now who are in the transportation business, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the dock workers, dock operators. And that's all we got, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll, and that's how we gotta get doing on that. Of course, to get the appellation and the ideas and the ideations of Asperger's, whatever Asperger's is. It's not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition, to get it on the go. And that's how we got, and that's how I get that rock and roll, man. And it's 24/7 for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And that's what they got, and that's how we do, and that's how we gotta get down that go, for those who are on the left, on the right, and in the middle, and do a little bit of security assessment here. This kind of doesn't look too safe. This is a citizen security assessment, and kind of looks like there's a little bit of a collapse there about to happen. But I actually applied for a job a few years ago there, and even this year they were not hiring because I guess they got some of their own finances and tough economic times. Myself, being I had many jobs, as an ASPE, and I had many jobs, but of course the problem is maintaining them, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll, for the XYZ, and we gotta get it on that drill, and gotta get it for the go, and it's something which we gotta get that prudent side of things, and some things which we gotta enjoy as fellow citizens here, just this neurological mental divergent condition, which of course manifests in a certain way. The manifestations of Asperger's, the aspiness. Look at this beautiful building. I just love how tall, and they did some renovations on it. The manifestations of aspiness are, of course, sometimes where we might repeat things, right? So now I'm going to stress a bit of Asperger's, and then we're going to do a little bit of that freestyle and rock and roll. So Asperger's, again, you got to commence and start with making the statement that it's not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition, and it makes us, of course, predisposed due to these brain mutations. So Asperger's, of course, is this neurological mental divergent condition, and due to those mutations of the brain, which of course they're not big mutations, you cannot see the mutations at the level. They're not bulging, they're not protruding, they're not visible with the naked eye, right? They are, of course, internal, right? At the micro level, microscopic level. Can I go towards the sun a bit? They're at a microscopic level, right? They're at the microscopic level. Think about it as nanoparticles or tight micro, the micro level, at the nano level. Those mutations account for a certain variations of how we see the world. How we see the world. Almost lost. Thought I was gonna fly away. So how we see the world. So we see the world differently, right? We see the world differently in a way, of course, that is not. We have these abnormalities, But these are not really abnormalities in the sense that a neurotypical might expect, right? Because you will probably deem those as abnormalities, but you have to understand that from an ASPE perspective, when we are engaged, fully engaged, with intensity, super focus, super concentration, super dedication into our special interests, that's not really an obsession or abnormalities, because we ASPEs have special interests, right? So these special interests really preoccupy our whole daily lives and routines. Our whole daily lives and routines are usually revolved around those special interests, and we might have different levels of intensity and regulations and of intervals, a regular interval. If we might repeat phrases 2-3 times, we might repeat phrases 2-3 times, We might repeat phrases 2-3 times, and of course the repetition of those phrases 2-3 times are of course the repetition which causes a certain individual to might of course be annoyed or annoyed by such Aspie traits and characteristics. But there's no medication for Asperger's. There's nothing that Aspies, there's nothing that I can do about it. I just have to live, you know. Aspies, we just live with our characteristics and traits, and that's as much as we can do, you know, because you cannot medicate Asperger's. You cannot give medications for Asperger's because it's not a mental illness, first and foremost. That's where we must totally categorically, it's not an illness and it's not a mental illness. Certainly in certain things we are less able, less capable. There are certain, in parentheses, disabilities in the social sphere, usually in the way people interact socially normally. The normal, what you call normal, because, you know, for us, you know, when we discuss certain topics of interest, us, that's our normal for us. That's our normal for us. So we have, so that also, that word is to be in question when you discuss Aspiness, Aspie traits, right? And yes, we might come across as sometimes as direct or offensive. You know. And sometimes this directness and offensiveness is not because we mean to, but because of those mutations of the brain. For us, it's very difficult to process and fully integrate and understand. Again, the understanding from you, the majority of the population's way of interacting socially and doing things socially. You, the 99.56%, because we Aspies, we constitute a small minority of less than 1 percentile. 0.5%. 0.44%. 0.44%. 0.44%. I repeat, Aspie communities, there's not a lot in the world. Very, very, very few. A lot of people don't even know what Asperger's is. Because it's just so rare. So it's a rare neurological mental divergent condition. The causes are not known exactly with certitude. There might be a combination of hereditary, biological, genetic factors, and there might be, of course, environmental factors or a combination thereof. The root causes. It's not conclusive, right? And it's for life. You cannot medicate. I will live. I will have to work in building bridges, small bridges, big bridges, medium-sized bridges, or extra large bridges. Or add 3 subcategories or 4 to those 4 main categories. And that's just what I will have to do and have been done. Especially got to give a shout out, thank you to an anonymous friend who gifted me 2 books on Asperger's. On Asperger's. And one book was loaned a few times, and I read a few times, a few chapters specifically, called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. This book, Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, really opened my eyes. And again, all my work got to be about during COVID, about 3.5 years ago or so, when I finally accepted that I have Asperger's, that I'm different, and I will have to be aware of that. And this book specifically opened my eyes how paradoxically I'm very vulnerable, and Aspie general, we're very vulnerable to certain things. Vulnerable because certain things we just don't get when in the social sphere and social circles, the formation of social circles dynamics in relation to perhaps how we are perceived and how we are either undesired or some people want to harm us and do us ill, do us wrong, do us violence or harm us, economic, financially, and physically, in whatever capacity, whatever it may be. So this book really illuminated me a lot. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. So I constantly have to work on the characteristics And of course, I have to be aware that of these vulnerabilities, sometimes because of our directness, our what's called, again, in the neurotypical world, you call it unfiltered. But these terms for me as an Aspians and for Aspies, they do not apply, because that's how our brains are, how we are, you know. We might say some things, even if it's a truth or an honesty, which other people will not admit. I'm not just discussing the fact that, of course, I am part of the LGBTQ community, because I've been in the open for years and years and years and years. And, you know, I've been part of the LGBTQ community for years and years and years, you know. I've been in the open, and I'm 50-50 androgynous, pansexual, you know. And that's how I rock and roll, and I've been rock and rolling for years and years and years. Mostly my androgyny is due to my reincarnations. I'm also an Aspian mystic, who believes in reincarnations. And you gotta read that George Patton Three Glass Darkly, I guess. And I know my geopolitics, because that's my special interest, and I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and strategist. I develop strategy mostly for North America, for Canada, United States, and by extension NORAD, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. My philosophy is dictums, and of course initiatives are mostly NATO related, NATO centric, mostly centrist, but real geopolitic in nature. There's a real geopolitic and a real dragon geopolitics, you know. And I gotta say again and repeat something I take great pride in, that I predicted what's happening with all the scars that I have, all the financial stress now, all the survive COVID, survive being depressed and suicidal. That's quite a cool. He's on this nice garden. I predicted what's happening now. Puppy! It's okay. The dog wanted to do a little bit of a kiss. So the point is that I predicted what's happening now back in 2019 in October, November in a general manner. I take great pride in that, and I have videos to back it up, because I discussed it in a World War III scenario, and consequently I also created a workout training program system to go with it, because parallel to geopolitics, my other special interest is sports and fitness, and parallel to that, to a second one also is rock and roll with that. Rock and roll. So that trinity or special interest, it is something which we gotta be, we are involved with intensity and super focus, super concentration, super engaged in, pretty much on a daily basis in a ritualized routine manner. We Aspies have these ritualized type of routines, you know, which preoccupy mostly of our daily activities. Unfortunately, or not, maybe not in some cases more than others, but due to those special interests, because they take so much of our time on a daily basis, so much of our engagement is in those special interests, they tend to be to the detriment of other activities. So they tend to be detrimental in a more negative sense to other activities, such as, for example, socializing. Although I do enjoy, you know, I'm with my anonymous friend for years and years and years to go see different plays, and the free ones, because affordability wise, and the culture, house of culture here in Montreal, Hawk Island, HAWK, big metropolis city, Montreal, Hawk Island. So those are always things which are of an engagement socially. And if it's rock and roll, I'm in. If it's dancing is my favorite sport, because sports and fitness is my other special interest. And if it's dancing, I'm in. And of course, if it's geopolitics, you can count me in. geopolitical, theoretical analysis on a daily basis I engage with, and of course the developmental strategy. And wow, these seem to be, of course, built here. These were under construction in past videos that you see during the spring and winter when we passed. I think now they're kind of preoccupied. Maybe they're selling now, you know. Maybe they're selling now. I'm not sure, but maybe. That was something which we gotta check. Cause I would love to give my anonymous friend one of those houses there, but his construction workers gotta holla, salute, rock and roll, because I will, of course, for me to be building together with us as we march towards our Imperial Republican Union of the 10, the 50, and the 3, the 63, and to build a 4. So just check what Asperger's is and understand fully that if you want to be my friend, from now on, today is July 24th, is friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. So I don't will to waste nobody's time, you know. I just don't waste my time, don't waste your time. It's just friends with benefits from now on, you know. Pledge your, or parallel, pledge your allegiance to our family and our freedom. Myself as a neurodivergent citizen, Aspie citizen who's neurodivergent, who has more difficulties in certain things than others, especially when it comes to socializing and social interactions, but of course who has certain great things to offer on the table, parallel to the 718 trillions of kisses, you know. 718 trillions of kisses. 718 trillions of kisses, which I put on the table consequently with my DRT. So three main problems that Aspies face, and in whatever order, depending on, you know, myself as an individual sovereign citizen who lives with Asperger's, who now is in the public and has to be aware of other fellow citizens, and have to always, of course, because now I'm in the public, right? So I have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which I wouldn't have had if I would have stayed home. I would have had less responsibilities, duties, and obligations. Now I'm outside in the public. I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, not just rights. I gotta go check out those whitey flowers. So it's not just rights, right? So now it's not just rights. Hey, quite cute garden here. I love flowers, and I love a lot when yellow flowers. I love a lot. I love all flowers, but yellow color. Although red is my favorite, but I love a combination. When I see multiplicity of different colorful flowers, I always love it and enjoy the multicolor combos, you know. So I play that Dragon Rainbow 24/7 for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, plumbers, electricians, welders. Always my songs got those worker teams, and last year I survived with $11,000 last year. That was quite something. So money serves a purpose, eh? Money serves a purpose to buy, sell, and enable us to do things. So three main problems that Aspies face. One problem, the lack of friends or maintaining friends, because there's not a lot of Aspies in the world. So us being that we're just so few, like we're a tiny minority of a community, way less than the LGBTQ community, who constitute for both Gen Z, where you at, and millennials, between 5 and 8%. For both Canada, United States, kind of the same. I think the overall LGBTQ Canadians was at 4.4%. So those who are 18 and plus. Right, while Aspies is 0.44%. So there's a difference, big difference, margin-wise and percentage-wise and ratio to population-wise. There's not a lot of Aspies. So the lack of friends. From now on, like I said, friends with benefits only, please. I don't want to waste nobody's time. I'm not looking necessarily for a romantic, and I will propose again to an old friend. There's going to be a special marriage, you know, but if it's going to be an engagement first, engagement first, then a marriage, because first is the engagement, and be special, I guess, because being that I am androgynous pansexual, you know. You're black, you're white, you're a man, you're a woman, you gotta make that hot, HHH, gridiron dancing, football loving. That's my own loving type of creation, but you gotta be 18 for that. You know, you gotta be 18 for that. 18 plus. Just like going when you go to a liquor store or to get into a club, or here you got that legal cannabis when it was legalized in 2019. 2019, you know, here it was legalized in 2019. The legal cannabis in 2019. I don't smoke myself much, but very rarely. I still have leftovers from years ago when I purchased during COVID. After I got vaxxed, I said, hey, it's legal. I'm just gonna check out some legal, and I got the most affordable one, but I still got some leftovers from that. So, lack of friends, and our problem, big problem, is the high depression and suicidal rate. So the high depression and suicidal rates is very high, you know. It's very high. The high depression and suicidal rates, you know. So that's what it is with that. The high depression and suicidal rates 9 times higher than the majority of the population. 9 times, right? So for every neurotypical, you, the 99.56%, every one of you neurotypicals, and again, we don't have an antagonistic relations. There's no antagonistic relation, but of course we have to get it on the go. So there's no antagonistic relation, and that's something which we have to do, and that's something which we gotta be observant. So of course the appellation of course being that so high a number of the ratio is just so high, you know. The ratio is so high, so it's 9 times higher. 9 times higher than whatever the case may be, 9 times higher than the neurotypicals, you know, the neurotypicals. So 9 times higher depression and suicidal rates. So that is so high, and I was depressed and I was suicidal, and I crossed Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean in 2017. So that event made me come out of being depressed. Turn your heads left or right when you cross the streets, because you never know, the brakes malfunction, and that's what can happen. Of course, we gotta get it on the go, and we gotta get it on that LOVE. So that's of course something which we have to be doing on the go, and in the left and in the right, and in those of course who interject and who of course also live and have lived depression and suicidal, you know, that is something which we have to admit, that it can be hell on earth living with it, and I have lived with it, experienced it for a few years. But what got me out of depression was going coast to coast, ocean to ocean in 2017. I went in British Columbia, BC. That was a great experience for me in BC, British Columbia. Going to Vancouver, 3.5 days by bus with an anonymous friend, and coming back with going on those Halifax, and in September went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that was the summer 2017. I still got the tickets, auctioning them for $1 million to give half to my anonymous friend. Those tickets, still got them, both the train tickets. It took from Montreal to Halifax in September. It took 25 hours and 44 minutes, so like a day, plus more than a day by an hour, a little bit more than a day, 25 hours and 44 minutes. And by bus, 3.5 days from Montreal to Vancouver. That was a long buses, and we kept switching buses after a few hours, like average about 3 buses every day. So I think a total of 11 different buses, something like that, from Montreal. And then we changed in Ottawa, then we changed in Thunder Bay, then we changed in Toronto? I'm not sure. Toronto, we didn't take. We took by Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay, Ontario was long to cross. It was long. Ontario was long to cross, right? So, yeah, so that event really changed my life. That made me come to realize how many things, those beauties, how many things we have here. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, that were our family, and that's how we rock and roll, you know. Quebecers, Canadians, that our family. I consider you family, and all who come to join us, of course. ALL, all who come to join us here in the coming Imperial Republic. Because my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, the king is absent. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. So that's what we have to do. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent. And that's what we have to do. Pledge your allegiance to our family. And the third problem. So one is the lack of friends. The other one is the depression and suicidal rates. And the other one, of course, watch, this is one way here. It's one way. So in theory, they can come by only that side, but you never know, hey? So that's why I would turn even left and right, even if sometimes they make mistakes, even if it's a one-way street. So always got that prudence. And the third, wow, look at those yellow flowers. And the third one is really unacceptable also because it's the unemployment. So Aspies, the unemployment rate for my fellow Aspies is 80%. I just love this. Love it, love it, love it. Wow. Just puts a big smile on my face. A huge smile on my face. And that's what we got. And that's where we are now. Big smile. Gotta gaze a bit more. Look at that. Whoopee! Hello, yellow flowers. You know that I love you. Gotta put a smile on Rainbow Dragon's face. I just love those yellow flowers every day. Wow. That's just nice. So basically, the unemployment rates, it's 11 times higher than for you, the 99.56%, aka the neurotypicals, with which us Aspies have to build bridges constantly. Small bridges, big bridges, bigger bridges, extra, so smaller bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, or extra large bridges. Again, those four categories can have subcategories. But we gotta build bridges because I have no antagonistic, and I'm not an antagonistic towards the neurotypical community. It's just I have to learn sometimes the hard way to understand my difference and how all this isolation, the self-harm, the bullying, the depression, the misunderstanding, not being able to maintain employment long-term because of these problems. Maybe an Aspie lives there with all the books, because I read so many books in the past of my memory gets a bit blackout. I have trouble accessing my memory prior to spring 2014. I don't know if I was an alcoholic or if I did hard drugs, if I was a junkie. What I remember is I was attacked by surprise and fell, hit my head on the concrete, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and not today. Had a dislocated right shoulder, right arm, and fell. Hey, beauty. Love you too, baby. What you saying? Some kisses? Can't pet you too much because I'm gonna sneeze. Only poodles and certain types of cats. But I do love you. Say hello to the camera. You're safe. You're well fed. Well loved. If they get too close to my face, I'll start sneezing. In beautiful black and white. Hey, we're going together to hydrate. You know I'm a weirdo. I have Asperger's. I know. So that's just the situation. So I live with that trauma. I mean, I don't know. I have to retrieve the archives, and when was it? And was of course something which it's like maybe type of PTSD, maybe, because there's several things which can cause memory loss. Sometimes alcoholism, drinking too much alcohol for a long period of time, but for a few years, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know if before spring 2014 I drank a lot of alcohol or not, or if I did a lot of drugs, I don't know. Or of course, whatever the case may be, if I was involved with doing drugs or alcohol, or because of that trauma, having been surprise attacked and felt the concussion, hit my head on the cement, and had that dislocated right arm shoulder. And I moved. I thought it was 2016, July 2016, but it seems that this year is actually, this year I moved, 2015, according to documents. It's 2015, July 2015. So that's the problem with the memory, you know? The memory I just have problems. And this we discussed. This I'm gonna discuss. This, okay, this symbol, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the oui, Québec indépendant. Oui, Québec indépendant. So we and another 6 one. That's a oui, Québec indépendant. But I don't know why they put the Canada goose there on it. We, they would vote yes. Okay, so we're gonna come back to that because that's related to what we discussed in the past in terms of geopolitics. So of course, again, that's the characteristics of the aspiriness. So the problem is the unemployment is high, very high. A little black and white dog, just like it's like a black and white cat which was there. And we got a squirrel. It's going up and down. As a little black and white dog, and they made me think as the cat was black and white. I said, hey, maybe they'll get along, you know? And then I would have a rainbow dog. But no, because, I mean, you can't really color, you can't abuse animals, and I wouldn't abuse animals, of course, but they have to like each other, because you never know, maybe they don't get along, you know? So, but I guess you test the grounds, and then as a referee, if there's foul play, you intervene. So we're gonna get to the we. So 80%, the problem is just gonna wait a few seconds. So that's the problem for Aspies, and I've lived it. I had many jobs that I liked, especially during COVID. And some lasted a few months, 3 months, a few weeks, 4 weeks, and 4 months, and a few days. I had many jobs in the past 7 years, but not long term, and imagine that. My community, which is a tiny small fraction of the population, there's 80% unemployment. Is very high, very high. It's unacceptable, really. I'm gonna hydrate and imagine the workers who took their brains and the muscle and built this fountain for me to drink water. So always gotta salute. Oh yeah, that was good, and that's what we need for the road. So finalizing on Aspie and getting back to the we there, because that's my home, that's my field. That's geopolitics 101, especially as relates to North America. So the 3 main problems with Aspies. Gotta give a thank you to my anonymous friend again for those books, which I learned how to be more vigilant with certain neurotypicals and build those bridges, yes, but with caution, because I'm different and I'm open to also not being liked and not knowing that I'm not liked, or that certain people have antagonistic feelings, you know, and without expressingly stating so, you know. So that's of course something which we have to get on the conclusive side of the things, where we are appellating now to love on the things and love on the go. So high unemployment, high depression, suicide rates. I lived it, and I live high unemployment now, although I'm always open for business, especially when it comes to geopolitics, sports, and rock and roll. And of course, with the characteristics, which I always have to work on ASPE traits and characteristics. But now we're gonna delve into geopolitics before the light comes. And this we here, there you see Quebec, indépendant, that's a we, that says yes, 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 yes. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a 5, and there's a 5th one, and that says yes. So now you're in my realm, you're in geopolitics. So this is actually a geopolitical statement of Quebec, Canada, and by extension North American, even I guess worldwide, and have to do with world affairs, has to do of course with geopolitics one-on-one, and that is what we're gonna discuss now. So that is a sticker, and myself, I'm a Quebecer, I'm a Quebecer, I'm a Canadian, this is my home, and personally I do not consider myself a member of a diaspora, but I'm a Quebecer, Canadian, North American. I lived here in past lives, past incarnations, and I live here now, and I have been here for decades, and that's how we have to be doing, and that's how I have to do the analysis on the regulatory manner of where we are now, that we're gonna have to discuss geopolitics. That's a sticker which is in support of Quebec sovereignty. Now myself as a sovereign citizen with Asperger's, Quebecer, I would vote no. So I would vote no. I would vote no. In my past videos you see, because my advocacy, my dream, which I call all to support, volunteer, and pledge allegiance to our family, which manifests as the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, is of course fundamentally the union of Canada and the United States, and shedding all but that to shed, and it is to shed all the remnants, the vestiges of the monarchy with Britain. Nothing against the British monarch, Commonwealth per se. My imperial republican democratic public-private partnership vision best for the 21st century for North American collectivism, with the individual sovereign citizens being sovereign and free and maximize the joy and liberty. And see how my brain now works? I see these trucks and I see this highway, and I know that it's going maybe up to the border, because that way where my finger is pointing south, and that way is pointing north, so they're going north and south. So now my brain is integrating this point event in my life now, this point event in my life, with the fact that all the truckers across North America, they might be potentially carrying that is, all the goods, all the vegetables, all the eggs, all the bacon, all the sausage, all the bananas, all the goods. Gotta salute our firefighters here. Gotta salute Sensamelo V to the firefighters. So all the truckers, all the trucks. So that point event, that's in Montreal, Hawk Island, HWK, and they carry out a route. They carry highway. It's going north and south, and we saw that big truck and other trucks. We saw 4 big ones in those spans of those seconds. But that's just in this area. But all across North America, even when we go to integrate Mexico, because Mexico is part of North America, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks now. It's Thursday. Even at night. Even when I'll be back at the mountain, now they're constantly my steps. They're now journeying, starting their journey, ending their journey with each step that I take, right? Because it's a massive plane, North America, right? Canada, coast to coast. We got 10 provinces, 3 territories, that's 13, and then 50 states. And if we include Mexico, that's even further, more and more trucks, which transport and which we depend, along with our railways, on for our continuing of the civilization. All that you see here, the apartments that they have the food in the food in the fridges, most of it comes via those trucks from the bigger, smaller, family size, big corporate owned or big mega food producers with a huge factories, with a huge lion farms, with a huge agricultural corporations, agricorps, whether public-private partnership with the cooperatives of milk cooperatives, dairy cooperatives, of course sausage cooperatives, all of course which we have in the North American plateau, and of course the North American Collective, and all of course now we're going to transport, right? So that is just something which we have to understand fully. So those trucks going east, west, north, south, those were going north and south, right? So they were going north and south, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get doing. That's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta situate ourselves in the dynamic, you know, which we have, you know. That's all we got, you know, in the plurality of things in which we are about to get it on the left side of things. And I just imagined a trucker smoking on a huge cigar, huge cigar, you know. That's what we got to get doing with that, and that's what we got. And we got to get on that left, right, and Z, and we got to get on that beautiful butchers and the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, all those electricians, the plumbers, and all those bakers, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those, of course, now to get it on the go and get it on the left and get it in the right, you know, in the spheres of which we are transactionally about, that all our food sources depend. And I just had a flash. That's why I laughed, because I have a creativity in me. A trucker just munching on a big Rainbow Dragon cigar. So the truckers of the empire, and it says on the cigar, it says truckers of the Dragon Empire. Because, you know, I sing that rock and roll for the truckers, see? So that's how it is, and it's all for our workers, Arbeit. So I just imagine, but not necessarily just a cigar or wearing a shirt. Dragons family, the truckers, Dragons trucking family, you know. So just imagine that, right? Of course, there's a bit of humor and comedy in it, because just not that well experienced in driving myself trucking, but when it comes to geopolitics, I see how important they are for the wellness and the well-being of our, from a geopolitical perspective, along with the railway conductors, you know, along with the Hydro-Quebec workers, along with the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, right? They're the most vital, but sometimes they're not that much praised in arts or culture, whatever. I don't know. I do my work, I guess, my part for many years, and you can check hundreds of my videos and raw, real revolutionary. Yes, I'm not without flaws, and certainly not without vices, you know. And sure, see how it goes down there, and there it goes up. Can go up like that, all the way up. And that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll, and that's how we gotta get spin it in, and gonna get on that drill, man. Look at that beautiful. See, that's beautiful. And that's what we got, and so we gotta get on that rock and roll, man. So it's on that good stuff, and we're getting on that good, man, because it's working out. My cousin's doing some biking, doing some workouts, and it's HOT, so I gotta salute all on the bike, all doing that work, that Arbeit, and all those who are now involved in the production, distribution of food. Look at that beautiful. That's the beauty of it here in the concrete jungle, Montreal metropolis. We have so many trees, luscious trees, which kind of give a little bit of that vitality, along with these beautiful gardens along the way, and the beautiful architecture. So, yeah, back to Quebec, oui. So that was a statement there, stickers relating to Quebec sovereignty. My fellow family, Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, I was born here on the island of Woman in 1688. I lived between 1688 and 1735 as a Quebecois, but as a Quebecois back then it was still New France, right? And I lived as a Quebecer man here. I served in the SPVM, not a long time. I met Louis here in 1904. I did a little bit of arm wrestling. So I was a Quebecois, and I was born in the United States as well, 3 times post 70-76. once as a woman, twice as a man. So in my previous incarnation, sometimes I was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a woman, a man. And I served in the United States Armed Forces 2 different times. Look how gorgeous those flower pots are. Kind of look like big beards. So I served in the United States Armed Forces, 2 different wars, 156 years apart. 156 years apart. The wars were, but it was the same United States Armed Forces. And one of my favorite poems is actually George Patton's "Through a Glass Darkly." "Through a Glass Darkly" is where George Patton, the general of the Second World War, famous for the Third Army, he of course discusses reincarnations, and he didn't mention there, but he was my wife in about 2,600 years ago. He only mentioned, and the poem was about his masculine reincarnations. But that's why today, I'm 50-50, I guess, and ended up in this incarnation that I gotta balance my previous incarnations. When I was born, sometimes a man, a woman, priestess of ancient Egypt was the oracle in Pythia, who orated the Great Eritrea. Was the priestess, and Pythia, who orated the Great Eritrea, was the priestess. The Oracle of Delphi, who orated the Great Eritrea, was the priestess. Beautiful garden, look at that. Wow, so gorgeous. So I was a priestess in Pythia, the Delphi, Oracle of Delphi, priestess Pythia, who orated the Great Eritrea to that. Lycurgus. So definitely I would vote no. Back to the Quebec sovereignty issue, I would definitely vote no. Now if there would be a technical, let's say it would be a yes, let's say there would be another referendum, as there were before. The last one was in 1995, and the margin was really not a considerable margin, only like 2%, Yes, even less, about 1%, 1.56. See, sometimes we're over there. See how it goes down, because we're on West Mount, one of the 3 peaks of the mountain system known as Mount Royal. So the last referendum in 1995 came very close. It was tight. It wasn't a conclusive no vote, right? I gotta double check, but I believe it was within a margin of less than 5%. Less than 5. That I can say that it's less than 5. It might have been 4 point something percent. I gotta double check. In 1995, see? The exact margin, I believe, but okay, there's a doubt, but I believe it was around 1.56%. It was like 49 to 51. Double check me on that. That was the vote for no, 51% point something, and 48.9 something, the official. Let's say 51 and 49% to round it up. So 51% versus 49, if we would take those numbers to get to 100, right? That means that it was by 2% higher, the no vote, to not to separate. So that sticker represented the yes vote. That means that whoever put that sticker, you're not my enemy. I wouldn't, I understand. I'm a Quebecer. I understand the sentiment, the history, the whole desire, the urge, even I would say, I would vote definitely no, but I would have some hope that my fellow Quebecer family would be able to manage an independent Quebec. That's how much I would say. So I would have certain faith that the Quebecois people would manage a good state, a good independent state, a sovereign state. So sovereign. I would state that much, although I would vote no, knowing the Quebecois people being part, myself, I'm a Quebecer, I'm a Quebecois, I'm Quebecois Canadian, North American, then towards the 4th dimension, world citizen, as much as I can be world citizen, because fundamentally I'm a North American, Canadian, Quebecer, Canadian, North American. And this is my home, personally, it's Hawk Island, Montreal, and not, consider myself a member of the diaspora, but it's of course something which I would definitely vote no. I would vote no. Now, would the Quebecois people, Quebecois nation, Quebecois, etc., an independent Quebec, would it have its challenges? Yes. Would it, Quebecois nation, be able to? Yeah, I believe that it would be able to in North America. It would be between, would have two other countries, right? Whatever's left of Canada, whatever hypothetically left of the United States. Artistically, I even did a little bit of a humor revolving that. I even did a little bit of a humor in revolves to that. I even did a bit of a humorous type of semi-utopian, a bit of a humorous comedy type of idea for a movie, a Quebecois movie, where this independent Quebec would be fictional. What would happen if a third vote would be held as yes? And I guess if I stay in an independent Quebec, hypothetically, I would be still doing what I do as an ASPI. I would be defending from a geopolitical perspective Quebec, and internally to do what I would propose to do, the XYZ implementation of different strategies and theories for North American centric maintenance of wellness and cordial relations, and of course for developing furthermore geopolitical strategy in relation to XYZ situational awareness to have peaceful relation with diaspora communities, and what I would propose in terms of how us, Quebec, as an independent state nation country, would be represented in organizations, because I guess Canada, we're part of NATO, so in independent Quebec, would we officially become part of NATO, we would have a different army. What is certain and sure is that, and I guess this is the part that I like the most, we would get rid of, our money, we would have a central bank, right? We'd get rid of all the mentionings of the king and the queens of England, right? You can bet on that. Because Quebecois independent nation, there wouldn't be any mention of the king and the queen, We would have the judicial reforms, and it would be, with the people, like a people's court and people's judicial system and representations, but it would no longer be any reference to the king per se. That is for sure, right? So that removal of all vestiges of British imperial monarchs system, that would be totally obsolete in a Quebecois independent Quebec, right? If there's a we vote right away, I guess. If the we vote comes to the TV and yes, we have voted for a separate Quebec, I guess you can bet your dad that somebody's gonna say tabarnak. He's gonna Vatal Roy is gonna commence à déchirer la monnaie. He's gonna have to start splitting the money and start chopping off the mention of the king and the queen, and would be reference to the people of Quebec and the Quebec nation. But I would vote no. But I wonder if we would. Let's say we would hold a referendum today. If we would hold a referendum today. Look at those beautiful yellows. So nice. They're not yellow, actually they're white. White. They're just white. So if we would be voting today, I wonder what the outcome would be. So in 1995, the last referendum, and the other one was in 1980. And of course, what would it be? So that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta go, 'cause that is something which we have to protrude in, and is something which we have to get it in. So what would it be, definitely, today? I would say that, due to having seen last week an interesting semi-mini documentary, that a lot of the youth, those between 25 and 44, between 25 and 44, they would actually vote no. They would vote yes. I'm just gonna wait a little bit on this and for 10 seconds. So I would definitely vote no, but if there would be a referendum today on Quebec sovereignty, I would say that it would probably come very close. I wouldn't say that it would come to a yes. I don't know. I would definitely vote no myself, but technically, it could be that there would be an overall yes vote. If it will be a vote today, I wonder. I actually wonder, protruding in what the case would be to get it on the go, and that's what we have to be doing. And we gotta get it on the left and get it on the protruding side of things, and we gotta get it on the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and all who get it on the go with that. And they're getting on the left and getting on those tennis balls. We're gonna hydrate and oh yeah, that's where we are, and that's where we are today. So accordingly, I would say that it would be a no vote overall, but I don't know for sure. So there was a doubt. There would be a doubt. What I do know is that the one in 1980s, of course, came out as a no, and of course see, that's where we are sometimes by the river. And the 1995 one, that's the river where we were yesterday, the day before, and that's far, far away. Sometimes we point the camera up because now we're on top of the mountain, Westmount of the Three Peaks, and that's what we got to get doing with that. See, and that's what we got to get going on the go with that, and we got to get on those left, right, and Z, and we got to get real with the referendum, because it's a high possibility that will be a yes, because of course I saw so many youths between 25 and 44 that would vote yes, right? They would vote yes. Many. And it's a documentary or some concerning the referendum. Like I said, I would vote no, but if I would stay here, probably. I mean, I'm a Quebecer Canadian. I would still do my work as an independent Quebec sovereignty nation, although my march is for the Imperial Union, but it's a geopolitical matter, unresolved. Although there has been peaceful resolutions, even the Trudeau's government has financed some $300-something million for a long-term French, and this is what I call the Great Linguistic Compromise, which we did, of the French language here. Us 9+ million Quebecers who speak the French language, and mostly is more of a social cultural ways of being Quebecers, right? Because the dynamics of really, as we are part of our social linguistics, which comprise that we are Quebecers, that's basically how us as Quebecers we are. It's not necessarily that we are descendants of an unipolar ethnic group, right? We Quebecers, we're multi-ethnic in nature, but we transcend our multi-ethnicity by the social cultural aspect of being Quebecers, by our language, which we love a lot, the French language. Like, we just speak French, and there's so much richness, Quebecois cultural French expression in the French language, and a lot of that we can go comedic, how we don't give a flying F about the king of England, right? the king or the monarchy. So that would be the first things to go, I guess. And I guess I'm happy because it's not the king who built, Quebec, and the Hydro-Quebec plants, Hydro-Quebec dams, and the farms, and the highways, and the public works, and the aqueducts, and the skyscrapers, and the farms, and of course all the cultural aspects of the cinematography and the rock and roll and the culture and the theater and the sports and all the things which we have in Quebec. Right, look at the beautiful, 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 beautiful flowers here. Beautiful. Got a little garden. I love it. So that's the geopolitics and the geopolitics of that sticker which we saw. To summarize, that individual would vote yes. He even advocates, goes a step further, decides to put 6 stickers, 5 of the same color and 1 different one. 5 of the same color and 1 different one. All related to we for an independent Quebec. I would vote no. Would I stay? In such a scenario, potential scenario, of which myself I created a idea for a movie, kind of semi-dark comedy, but a bit utopian satire, you know, a bit kind of like the Quebecois movie which called Elvis Gratton. Elvis Gratton is a famous movie, several of them, there's several movies, Elvis Gratton. It's a bit my way, of course, my dragon-esque, rainbow dragon-esque, Aspie artistic manner way, but in that is how I would, of course, develop it. So basically that is fundamentally the aspect of the whole array of what we are to be and we are to, and how we express ourselves in all the matters of our fundamental potential of a Quebecois state becoming a reality in such a referendum. Now, my ideas, protocols, of course, are first, because my ideas, protocols are for the fusion of Canada and the United States. My brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, the king is absent, and you know it's a Dragon versus Trump event. Eh? Love you too, Birdie. It's a Dragon versus Trump. Now, in my backpack, I have those red gloves right there. John auctioning for $1 million. Seen the backpack. Got those red gloves by which I am challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match and have been ever since 2018 when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Since then, my anonymous friend gifted me those red gloves. They're a bit worn off and have a little bit of a damage, but still ready to go, auctioning them for $1 million. And I have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since Donald Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Now, this geopolitical statement, because we're in my topic, being that I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and strategist, of course, that fundamentally, that's where we have to concord the aspects of our daily life. And this following statement that I'm going to make is a yes. So Quebecers, Canadians, Quebecers, and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states reciprocally, this applies for both Canada and the United States. This following geopolitical statement. So our main interest, when it comes to foreign affairs, I'm not discussing inner domestic affairs, not domestic. When it comes to foreign affairs, for both Canada and the United States, our principal geopolitical interest is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. The best, most cordial economic, social, financial, economic, cultural, defense, and all other aspects. See how it goes down. Now, we're on top of the mountain, West Mount, one of the 3 peaks of Mount Royal. So that is just the reality. You cannot say no and you cannot say maybe to that statement. Our main interest is to have the best, most cordial economic, financial, social, cultural, demographic relations with each other. There's just no way out of that statement. There's no way out of that. You cannot say no, you know. You cannot say no, you know. You cannot say no. You cannot say no. You can only say yes, 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 yes. You cannot say no. And you cannot say maybe. That is just the realities of our geopolitical, real geopolitic truth and realities. Everything else is secondary. In terms of foreign affairs, our main principal interest in our foreign affairs policies for both Canada and for both the United States have to be directed reciprocally towards each other to have the best, most cordial, friendly economic, social, defense, cultural, military, financial, diplomatic, and security partnership cooperation with each other when it comes to foreign affairs, not domestic. Foreign affairs. So you cannot say no. You cannot say no. You cannot. One cannot say no. Otherwise, you have to revise and go back because it's not real geopolitics. You have to say yes. You have to say yes. And there's no, not even maybe. This is a constant. This is a constant. Just like the N in mathematics, the two-headed type of symbol, it kind of looks like an N for Normandy, Normand, normal, nobody. The N has like two heads on both sides, right? That is the symbol which represents, of course, the number 3.14, 15, 16. It continues ad infinitum. It has to do with the circumference and the diameter of a circle, right? That's not a variable. That's a constant. For the past 75 years, at least since the end of the Cold War and the beginning of the dissolution of the British Empire, let's begin with the partition of India. Until now, since the end of the Second World War, until now, in the 21st century, first quarter already down in the 21st century, and in the coming decades, my statement that for both Canada and the United States, as foreign policy number one place, has to be that we have with each other reciprocally, in reciprocity, the best, cordial, most friendly relations, economic, financial, commercial, cultural, diplomatic, and defense relations with each other. And there's no way out of that. That's the yes, the geopolitical reality. There's no maybe to that statement. That statement is the geopolitical constant. Has been for the past 75 years, and is so today, and will be so for the next many decades. That's just how it is, due to our history, our geography, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the fact that we got us, Canada, the border we only really have with the United States. Take off the Arctic and Greenland and XYZ factors, but as a real geopolitics, right? And the United States has with Mexico. But besides that, they have with us, and they got coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the Atlantic and the Pacific. And we got the Atlantic and the Pacific. So our geographical and common historical backgrounds and common future destiny that were part of the New World, you know. We're new, like I always say, my philosophy is that we are a new collective civilizational complex, right? Who's always emergent, not only divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. So it's not divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. And that is just something which we have to get that concordiate. So being that is that concordiate, that's why we have to be always on the, it looks like a snake, eh? Snake with like the head, see, like it's coiled like a snake. Maybe it's a big anaconda in there. I love snakes, I don't mind snakes. Spiders also, I love spiders. Bats, I don't mind. Bats, spiders, snakes. There's some good snakes, if you go biblical references. It's more mystical though. right? But it's not necessarily literal snakes. So that is just our main interest, to have the best, most cordial relations with each other. That is just the appellation of which we are, right? That is just the reality of where we have been and we are and we will be. There's just no way out of that geopolitics. There's just no way out of that. That is just how it is and how it will be. So that's just how we're gonna rock and roll in terms of geopolitics. That's why, at least where we are now, my initiative, strategies, and protocols, part of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. And if anybody wants to commission an in-depth work on analyzing philosophically, geopolitically, social, culturally, the potential for a Quebec third referendum where two former rivals unite. Sometimes they do, for the greater good, eh? For some reason that made me think of the Super Bowl 47 and what I will to build, although we're now rivals, little brother, little sister, Canada, United States, eh? We're like a family and we need to unite. We really need to get rid of the border. It's not even profitable for us to maintain a border due to the current geopolitical situations and increasing transnational crime. And I'm a centrist, eh? My centrism is pro-labor and love revolutionary centrist, and my pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrism is always concordant to the appellations, of course, of where we are, in concordium to the realities of today. And if, of course, you see the geofunctional that last year, October 24th, there has been, of course, a mass seizure, a mass seizure of something which, of course, the mass seizure of the biggest super lab in Canadian history by the RCMP Federal Police last year, 24th of October, and supposedly they had retrieved so many fentanyl pills they seized from the transnational crime syndicate organization, underworld criminal transnational organization, transnational criminal underworld organization. Supposedly was able to kill the population of Canada twice over. That fentanyl, just from one super lab. This happened before Donald Trump got elected on the 24th of October, 2024. So it's not necessarily that the drugs are flowing into the United States necessarily, but there has been in the past years an increased local domestic production by transnational organized crime syndicates in Canada. In Canada, transnational crime syndicates in Canada. Right? So that has definitely increased in the past 10 years. The past 10 years or so. The transnational crime syndicates, transnational crime syndicates, the transnational crime syndicates in Canada. So that has been just something which is part of the beautiful flowers there. So now I'm just going to discuss my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, and part of it, my theories, philosophies, which is called for the fusion of Canada and the United States, and of course the understanding that my bipolar, not bipolar as in the psychiatric psychological condition, but my bipolar geopolitical strategy for total BDD, benevolent dominance dominion of the North American collective by the fusion of Canada and the United States for total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion of the 21st century geopolitical world of the world. So that's my bipolar geopolitical strategy via my debt refusion theory in order to fuse Canada and the United States into the Imperial Republic in order to attain total BDD of the geopolitical world B for benevolent, D for dominance, and D for dominion, BDD. But of course, and that includes all my theories, trinities, and the new 911 Dragon Army Total SSD protocols and initiatives to be included for total security, total service, total defense, and coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and to have the appellation and to have the appellation and the rock and roll which we're gonna give to the butchers, the bakers, the construction workers, the nurses, cleaning workers, firefighters, crane operators, train conductors, the warehouse workers. And we gotta know everything that's coming in and out by the ports and the airports. That's why my DRT theory best. We gotta get rid of the border, and my public-private partnership best are the initiatives to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka the Imperial Republican SSD Legion, Imperial Republican SSD Legion, and DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, you know, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, Imperial Integrated DL for total environmental education and action, because you see sometimes how many things are not put into the recycling, and some things are not put into the garbage, and some things are not put into the garbage properly or the recycling properly. So it's always something which I gotta be working on, and you gotta be working on together, and that is just something which we have to be mindful about in our daily activities. You know, it requires the individual citizen, and it requires the individual citizen doing it, and of course the individual citizen, and of course the collective. So it is a individual action of the citizens to put place the recycling material into the bins which are for recycling, and not to throw it in the garbage, and vice versa, right? That's what has to be thrown in the garbage has to be put in the garbage, not in the recycling bin. So there's an individual responsibilities and concordant appropriate action which has to be taken, right, for the environment. So that's what the Dancing Goddess Army will have as a preoccupation, and I will to build the four. Before I discuss my DRT, gonna discuss the four buildings which I will to build. Let's build together on the Canadian-US border. On the Canadian-US border, the biggest, most ever built, bigger, majestic sports coliseum ever. To be 11 times in the Caesar Superdome. Before it used to be known as the Louisiana Superdome, and before that it used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz. So of course Mercedes-Benz, Louisiana Dome, and the Caesar Superdome changed names several times, just like I changed my name during COVID. Adrian Hana Dragon. Nobody's born a dragon. You become one. Gotta get that. Push-ups, hugs, sweets, HUG, hug like you never hugged before today with consent. Don't start hugging random people in the streets. That's not what I said. So of course that's what we have to appellate and integrate in the concordium, of course, of all our common understanding to build the biggest ever built sports coliseum for sportus in perpetuitis, for 24/7 hours, 24/7 sports activities, where all the sports leagues plus women's sports leagues plus other events, so universities from Canada, United States and beyond, and gonna have sports and fitness, different sports from rugby, football, dancing, and tennis, and soccer, and even UFC, even fighting, martial arts, and boxing, and all sports activities under the sun to be happening there 24/7 on the Canadian-US border, and where, of course, we're going to have every week a rotation for different industries, such as the public bus drivers, the security officers, the Dragon Army, Dancing Goddess Army, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the welders. Every other week is going to be different teams, and for different workers of our coming empire, which is going to be on the Canadian-US border for perpetual Dragon Union, for the perpetual Dragon Union, which of course we're gonna integrate and install, and of course let to be conclusive, and let to be on the conclusive side of the parallel things which we have to be doing, and which we have to be concomitant, and counterplanes in which we're gonna have to be on that rock and roll side of things as we're gonna be endeavoring of our activities as we are, of course, to get down to arbeit together for this great work of the North American Civilizational Complex and build that super Coliseum again to be so big and majestic, bigger than any sports arena complex ever built until the present moment. And I got 11 seconds. Should I wait? Yeah, I'm just gonna wait. I decided to wait a bit, wait for the next one because I don't want to run. I'm a bit on the sore side, so just gonna step it in, stretch a bit here, go check out the beautiful skyscrapers there, and continue discussing the building on the Canadian-US border of the North American Sports Coliseum. And the inauguration event is gonna be Dragon versus Trump. Me and Donald Trump are gonna fight on the Canadian-US border in order to inaugurate the building and the construction of this biggest ever sports event ever built, and of course concomitantly to the building of these bigger sports events, we're gonna have sports in perpetuities and sports in perpetuity, and we're gonna have, of course, the sports and the fitness capabilities to get it on the go. And me and Donald Trump are gonna inaugurate it, and that's has been stated as me and Donald Trump are set on you never know, Granddaddy Trump might knock me out. He's a toughie. And we got those 35% tariffs coming in August. And additionally to the ongoing trade war, already we started suffering, Because we have to be realistic, Between 75% and 90% of all our exports from Canada go to the United States. That's more than 3/4. That's more than $75 out of every 100. Between 75% and 100. Between 75%, not 100, but 90%. Between 75% and 90%. Right? Think about that. Between 75% and 90%. That is a huge number. That's just enormous. Of our exports go to the United States. Between 75%, as low as 75%, which is not low, but the variance between 75%, 3/4, and 90%. So that is just huge. The numbers are just so big. So we have to be attentive to that. We have to be attentive to that. Between 75% and 90%. Right, that is really big. So of course that those numbers so that's what we have to be concordant about and totally integrally acknowledge that we have all of our vulnerabilities when it comes to our dependency on the economic, commercial, financial dependency on the United States. That's just the reality. But my statement in the back that the United States also is primary interest is to have the best, most cordial relation with Canada. That's why fusing Canada by my way, and let's sign those perpetual imperial constitutional amendments to fuse a constitutional, to make it an imperial republic constitution. An imperial republic constitution and imperial republic constitution. To create these two new institutions PPP based, public-private partnership fundamentally based for the 21st century, and where we are now at our realities. And let's build a four, and let's, me and Donald Trump, we're gonna fight. Sportsmanship, 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 sportsmanship. And of course, sportsmanship like matter. And of course, in Concordiate, we're gonna have the sportsmanship, and we're gonna, of course, appellate and integrate. And of course, we're gonna do the due diligence to be on the concomitant side, to do all the things which we have to be doing on the pluralities of all our collective spheres, and that's where we have to be. Here we gotta cross the street poorly, gotta watch a little bit. Sometimes they cross. I gotta stop, thank you. Get the priority to cross the street safely, but still turn my head left and right, because you never know, you know. The brakes malfunction, the electricity malfunctions, and that can happen. And we're gonna enter the mountain right here. Going in the darkness a bit. So that is just the reality. That is just the reality. There's, I'm gonna let my mane out. There's no and no maybe to that statement. Oh, it gets a bit cooler in the forest, my mistress on the mountain. In the darkness we go, there's some light as we called. So let's build a North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. Let's build the House of the Dragon. Pyramid, 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 pyramid. Scarlet, scarlet, scarlet. House of the Dragon. Let's build the Forgotten Goddess. Temple of my will to build, of course, the Forgotten Goddess. G-O-D-D-S-S, yes. The Forgotten Goddess Temple. To build the, for my fellow neurodivergents and LGBTQ community, the Rainbow People's Palace. Gotta watch my steps here as well, because we got some roots. Paradoxically, I see in the dark. Not perfect, but sometimes you gotta get in lux in tenebris and just roll it down, and going on that left and right and left, and zigzag it as you can. So let's build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. Me and Donald Trump are gonna inaugurate it by fighting, and it's gonna be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. The Caesar Superdome changed names. Before it was used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz. Before the Mercedes-Benz, it was, of course, known as the Louisiana Superdome, so he changed names several times. It's like I changed names, and where my 49ers lost by 3 points to the Ravens in Super Bowl 47, aka Blackout Ball, aka Bro Ball, aka Blackout Ball, Hardball Ball, Bro Ball. Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames. Paradoxically, it's one of my top 5 favorite Super Bowls, where my 49ers lost, and for the first time ever in history, the two brothers who won, the older or the younger or the older, who won, the older or the younger, because they were respectively coaching against each other in the Super Bowl. Who would have thought the odds that two brothers would ever, I'm going steep now, gotta watch those rocks, watch the rugged terrain here in the mountain, on the forest. You know where we are at my second home. And of course, where we are and where we compliment, saluting our firefighters. I hear those sirens if it's a firefighter ambulance, or my brothers and sisters, boys and girls in blue. Gotta get out of the way. Slow down your cars, slow down your driving. It's tough times. We're stressed and they're stressed and we're stressed, and we gotta avoid and just say whatever problems you have, emotional, financial. We're gonna move towards the rehabilitation of Quebec, Canada, United States together with this new alliance, a new deal which we're gonna make. And my brothers and sisters, as I sing that rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue, I always gotta sing that rock and roll for my brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation, who do their criminal rehabilitation, who do their criminal rehabilitation, who do their criminal rehabilitation as well, because we need you to build those 44 towns. Let's construct, build together in case of a thermonuclear war. And now I gotta propel myself like a rocket. Yeah, because it was steep at one point, so I had to rocket that baby up. And now I'm a bit on that breezy side. You can see the breeze in the forest, the trees, my mistress, the forest on the mountain. Sometimes we play that BDSM and I gotta submit, and she teaches me some of her secrets, and she laughs at mine, I guess. Goddess dances with her brother and son, so let's build the harbor ball, let's build the arena, the North American Coliseum or the Dragon Trump Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, and to be 11 times bigger than where the sports arena was built on the Canadian-US border. That's what we have to be doing, and build the North American People's Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the harbor ball. And we're gonna have sports in perpetuity, and let's get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean public-private partnership to equilibrate and do furthermore advancements and progress via my DRTT, which I'm now gonna discuss as much as I can and fundamentally as much as I can in the whatever adjacent parallel manner, which is to be concorded with the current economic realities for both Canada and the United States. So here I am. We can see, go towards the light, the economic, financial, commercial darkness which faces millions and many for both Canada and the United States. Even me, I'm financially stressed. We gotta concord and appellate and direct, and of course consequentially be prudent and organized and say fully. Oh, that's a skunks. Is that black and white skunks? Gotta be careful because I don't want to get sprayed. So that is just something which we go in the darkness sometimes, and that is just something. Now we're gonna take it by the side here. There's a skunks there, and gotta be careful if you're gonna come or not. And is the first skunks I saw. First skunks. Guys, there's a skunks there. Be careful. Skunks? They get that smelly stuff? Yeah, you're welcome. I let them know that there's a skunks, Get that smelly stuff, Because it crossed, it was black and white, and I had to just be careful, because sometimes it went right where they were going. There's gonna be perpendicular to them, and they could be hidden and then they get a little bit of that spray on them, and that's the spray, and they're smelly. So the DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, now I'm going to discuss, the DRT theory, and that's how we're going to get doing with that, and we're going to get doing on those things which we are, to get it on that left and right, and the proposition of whatever the appellation of the things we are indeed to manifest in all our coming imperial republic. So the four main problems which are pressing now, economic problems, and by which, and because and since those problems are so pressing, that's why we have to implement my DRT theory, RDs. So one problem is, of course, the growing cost of living. The growing cost of living, of course, it keeps increasing. The prices of everything is going up. Every day prices are increasing. Every day prices are increasing. So every day, of course, the prices of everything are going up. So that is, of course, the problem. The prices are increasing. The stagnation of the salaries in consequence. The salaries are stagnated. And, of course, the growing cost of rents. So even my rent went up. I'm not going to say by how much, because, of course, my rent went up by, of course, a maximum of 10. By a maximum of 10. So it could be $10 maximum. It could be exactly 10 or less. Let's say between 6 and 10. So of course that is something which you gotta keep in mind. I think I just saw a flash. Did I see a thunder? A lightning? Maybe. It was a flash. So the DRT, of course, hope it wasn't a nuclear strike, I guess, because the ICBMs, we would see a white flash. ICBMs can, of course, rocket us, of course, from miles away, and from ICBM rockets, they could, of course, get it on the XYZ stuff, and that's why we have to be prudent over the go, and that's why we got it on the go as we go. So that's why we gotta be left and right on the things, and we gotta get that DRT, So that's why we gotta get it for now. And here we're gonna go on the left to get. They're going on the left, that is, and we're staying on the right side. That child, I heard a child say, "This is a long walk." This is a long walk. Yes, it's a long walk. Children are innocent, that's what matters. Innocence of the children, that's what we have to be doing on the. That's not So that's what it is. So we have to be implementing the DRT because the growing cost of all the living things, even the bread and the butter, right? See every day prices going up. The rents, even my rent went up, but I can't complain because it's in the variable where I cannot complain because I'm going to say that it's maximum 10 for me. It could be less, maybe it's exactly 10. Because I'm not going to say exactly by how much my rent went up, but my rent went up and went up every year in the past. At least 7 years, 5 years at least in COVID. Of course, so that's what we have to be doing on that. That's what we're gonna go doing for the left and the right, and gotta get it inside, and gotta get that DRT for the prudent side of things, and we gotta get for those who are in the same position, which is the vast majority for both Canada and United States, for both Canada and United States, and that's what we gotta get signed with that, and gotta get for that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the. So that's why we have to be mindful of all the situational complexities. Well, where we are now, That's why we have to do the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The DRT, debt refusion theory. So the point is that the rents are going up, prices are stagnating, the cost of living is going up, and one more problem. Now somebody's swiping that credit card. That's somebody swiping that credit card, and somebody's swiping that credit card now. From Montreal to San Francisco, from Montreal to San Francisco, somebody's swiping that credit card now, you know. So somebody's swiping that credit card now, you know. Somebody's even getting more in debt. But we reached, of course, growing economic debt, and growing economic debt, of course, is something which we have to be prudent, you know, to get on that appellation, and that's just something that we have to be implementing ASAP, you know, as soon as possible, you know, because it's something which we gotta be speedy about, you know. The speediness is something which we have to be speedy and with rapid force, and it takes a public-private partnership to, of course, implement my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, Ready. Pardon. So that's what we have to be doing. Of course, the implementation of the DRT, the debt fusion theory. So listen carefully and with consideration, and super dedicated, super intently to the following. DRT, the debt fusion theory, sometimes which we have to get on the illusion of the side of things, of which we have to be doing, and we have to be doing on the go, and we have to be doing on the now. You know, so that's what we have to be doing, and that's what we have to be doing on that, you know. Fica. Stop there. You. So we have to implement the DRT. The DRT, you know, has to be implemented. So listen to it carefully. My DRT, of course, includes monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is, of course, the financial theory which was integrated, implemented in the European Union in the 90s. The Europeans, the Germans, the Italians, the French implemented that theory. And again, there's no solution. There's no solution. There's no solution. There's no solution, you know. There's no solution but the DRT, or something which resembles, you know, the DRT theory, which resembles the DRT theory. You know, the DRT theory has to be resemble in the consequential prudence of where we are. You know, so the DRT theory is something which you have to be knowledgeable about, and of course to fully state and fully support it, or something similar, because we're on the verge of an economic collapse. It could happen tomorrow, 25th of July. ASAP. We are too much in debt. Too much in debt. Too much in debt. Too much debt. Too much. The prices of everything are going up. The prices prices of everything are going up, right? The prices of everything are going up. So the prices of everything is going up. Right? The rents are going up. The rents are going up. The prices of everything are going up. And of course, the prices of everything is going up. That's what's happening, right? That's what's happening. The prices of everything is going up. Prices of bacon, prices of cheese, prices of milk, the growing credit card debt, and plus the stagnation of the salary. So those four, the growing, record-breaking, and this applies for both Canada and the United States, record-breaking credit card debts, right? For both Canada and the United States, we now have record-breaking credit card debts, record-breaking credit card debts for both Canada and the United States. Every week, you see, we break another record because it keeps going up every day. Even now, somebody's swiping from Montreal to San Francisco. In Montreal, they already maxed out the four maxed out credit cards. Maxed out the over credit card debt. Price of rents increasing. Price of everyday goods and the stagnation of the salaries. So those four economic stressful pillars. So that's why the DRT is the solution, or something similar. When I'm gonna hydrate and we're gonna discuss the DRT. Gonna usually let about 10 seconds, 20 seconds for the water to clear the pipe so that I don't get rust in the lungs. And imagine this is all the way at top of Mount Royal on the mountain. How much brains and muscle to build this fountain here was utilized, and thank you to those who built it. I'm gonna rock and roll the DRT thanks to you. Before we switch a bit to that French, because we here in La Belle Province, so meditations. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that's where we are with the DRT. So the DRT. So the DRT stands for debt refusion theory. Also includes monetary integration theory. The monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000, all the public and the private debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public and the private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the public-private debt of the United States. All that money is going to create a new central bank. We're going to issue a new currency called the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit, the universal exchange unit, the UE, the UE, the UE. UE, U dot universal, E exchange, universal exchange unit, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE, the UE, the UE, the universal exchange unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to put a place at 10% interest rates. So it's not going to be able to be more than 10%. With that money, of course, we're going to create mass finance citizens fitness activities. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to get on that go. So we're going to mass finance citizens fitness activity. We're gonna get on that go, and we're gonna build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. We're gonna mass finance the building construction of the rebuilding of the infrastructure, the firefighters, the builders thereof. So we're gonna do lots of good with the UE, the creation of the UE. So this DRT, that refusion period, of course, is gonna have this new currency, and this new currency, of course, we're gonna call the UE, but it's gonna be on the value of the US dollar. Look at those beautiful, aren't they just super nice, super yellow here? Whoever did that work, it's something which we gotta get in for those beautiful things which we have here. That's what we have to be doing on that. We gotta get it on those loves, and those people who came here, they gotta get a little bit of that good water, and we're gonna see the city there. And I don't want to get splashed, but we're gonna get by the side to getting in and out, and then we're gonna drill it. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna take all the DRT, the debt refusion theory. We're gonna take it all in us, and we're gonna create the new sphere, this new currency. We're gonna create this new currency, and that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna create this new currency, the DRT. We're gonna get on that go, and that's what we got, and gonna get it for that. See, look at that. See that? Look at that pyramid. Now we're gonna get that building of the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, and that's what we got. See, look at that. That's the pyramid. See, that is the pyramid of the city, and that's what we got, and that's what we do, and that's what we gotta get, you know. We're gonna see a little bit of that. So the universal exchange unit is something which we have to be doing on that. And see here, you can go and take a little bit of that water here. See, if you are too hot, you get a little bit of water here, and you can satisfy your you're tired, eh? You're worn out. Tired. That's all we got, and that's what we're gonna get doing. So it's good to hydrate on heat waves like this, so you don't suffer from exhaustion. That's why if you're tired, give me some of those trillions of kisses. Since COVID, I died of COVID, I guess, by those trillions of kisses that I got credited to lay the foundations of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, I guess. How can I get tired, eh? I mean, I sleep, I get tired, I get moody, but in that sense, if I got the curse of the blessing of the goddess credited me 718 trillions of kisses, although financially stressed, broke. Anybody wants some, you have to pledge your allegiance, and I got those trillions of kisses, and the DRT could go with it, because we have no choice but to implement the DRT. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my 10,000, your 10,000, their 10,000, all the public and the private debt, my 10,000, your 10,000, their 10,000, all the 10,000s that, well, I have $10,000 the RBC as a debt, so all the public private debt of Canada, convert all the public private debt of Canada into the US dollars, added with the US dollars, that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank, for a new central bank. So that's going to be the creation of a new currency and a new central bank. That's why I mentioned before that inside my DRT is the MIT, or the monetary integration theory, which was the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So as I mentioned before, inside my DRT, inside the debt refusion theory, is integrated monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union back in the 90s, long ago. The Germans, the Italians, the French, the Belgium, other countries, they destroyed the national central banks, right? They no longer have national central banks as they had before. They destroyed the national central bank. They have the ECB, the European Central Bank, which issues a multinational currency called the euro, right? So that is just what they did. And that is, of course, their implementation of the monetary integration theory, which is integrated in my DRT theory, but for North America. So we're gonna add convert all the public-private debt of Canada, including my $10,000, into US dollars. We're gonna add it with the US public-private debt, and that money, along with all the other money in circulation, is gonna be the new currency based on the value of the US dollar, called the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit is gonna have the value of the US dollar, right? It's gonna have the value of the US dollar. We're gonna put an interest rate level of 10%. It's not gonna be able to be more than 10%. It could be less, not more. With that money, we're gonna rebuild the infrastructure, the bridges, the tunnels, the aqueducts of the North American Collective. We're gonna mass finance tourism. We're gonna get rid of the border, fuse Canada, United States, make a great census to see everybody who's living here, enjoying with the public-private partnership, all the security forces and police forces and volunteer citizens, to do the census and see who's been living here for the past 7 years, give some amnesty, what I call pre-citizens of the coming, this is going to be the Imperial American Republic, which Canada, the 10 to 13, is going to be the 13 new states fused with the 50. We're going to mass finance healthcare, mass finance wellness, mass finance food security, mass finance the building of social constructions, mass finance the building of the Ford, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, mass finance the building of the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, and that's what it's gonna be. Mass finance the 44 in case of a thermonuclear war, and that's just what is gonna be to be done, That's just what we have to be doing, concomitantly, in essence. The plurality of the essence of everything which we have to be doing. The night, the day, in the coming of our Imperial Democratic Republic, and pledge allegiance to our family, for the truckers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the firefighters, truckers across the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. You're gonna get that cadence later on. That is my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid there, see? Thank you to the butchers, nurses, doctors, and firefighters, plumbers, electricians, and those bakers, those of course who get that LOV, and those of course who get that to build the buildings going up on the cranes. And this is a magnificent Hawk Island, Montreal. I love coming here. This is my second home, and I always get a refreshment when I come here, but now I'm getting a bit on that thirsty, hungry side, so I gotta spin back, support the DRT. The debt refusion theory, of course, is the solution. There's really no other solution because of those 4 main problems, which I said: the growing debt, indebtedness, the growing rental increase of the rents, the stagnation of the salaries, and the maxed out credit cards, and of course the DRT, debt refusion tree, for the creation of the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. And we're going to build those 44 tunnels with that, the DRT, the UE. We're going to build the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, get rid of the border, create a new common Imperial Republican passport. We're going to mass finance citizens' fitness, mass finance citizens to work out, mass finance citizens to train, mass finance citizens to exercise. We're going to do, of course, lots of good mass finance intra-Imperial Republics tourism, because it did me great good to cross Canada coast to coast, and it's going to be the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act. We're going to create the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army. We're going to create the Dragon Army, the North American Imperial Republic's SSD Legion, for total security, total service, total defense, parallel to implementing my citizen integration theory and the democratic fusion theory and the new 911 Dragon Army total protocols, and rebuild the communications networks via PPP, because we saw just yesterday was in the news, by Microsoft. We're vulnerable and we can be now attacked by foreign governments who can employ even underworld criminal transnational organizations and groups. So we got to give some amnesty for the building of those 44 tunnels inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Montreal Underground Village, and paradoxically by Hamas. Although I'm no fan, no supporter of Hamas, they build underneath Gaza tunnels, mass tunnel systems, right? Mass tunnels systems, mass tunnels, of which those mass tunnels are of course protrudent and supposedly between 350 and 500, between 350 and 500 kilometers, miles underneath Gaza. So inspired by those tunnels, we're gonna build 44 mass tunnel complexes starting ASAP, and let's sign where we were there atop the Belvedere Condirnac, the new North American protocols for the North American Collective. Et bien sûr, and of course we have to be mindful of that we have to be mindful and appellative to all the situations which are now facing us, of which this growing economic financial stresses, and we need to build those satellites and get that golden hawk, put the hawk in it, and implement Operation Northern Scorpion based on my protocols. The Operation Northern Scorpion, of course, Canada, United States, for total security, total service, total defense, and of course based on my total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, total mobile defense theory. The TMDT, total mobile defense theory, when we had the fifth letter acronym DS system, I cannot totally divulge that defensive strategy for total defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the binational, because I can only relate it to David McGinty, high-ranking security officials for the Canadian United States Armies. We're going to fuse for the Imperial Army together with all the security services of the high-ranking, of course, in the RCMP and the FBI, CIA, and David McGinty, and CSIS, and CIA, and all our security apparatus, Canada, United States, joint fused via the Dragon Army New 911 protocol. So the total mobile defense theory via Operation Northern Scorpio, once it would be, of course, to build those tunnels to, of course, the operations of the mass financing of tourist activity, tourism across coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and that is fundamentally something which we have to do, and we have to do it, and it takes action, it takes will, and here I am atop the mountain, my second home, the mistress. See, I think that's a bat. We gotta pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only, support the total mobile defense theory. When we add the S, the fifth acronym, to the fourth, TMDT, total mobile defense theory. The TMDT, when we add the S, that means the system, the total mobile defense theory system. That means that we have it, of course, we implement it, and that system becomes a system. When the theory is put into action and practice, is when the parentheses open up from the fifth letter, the fifth acronym, the S system, when it's put into action, the TMDT, total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, When we put an S and we put it into practice, it becomes the system. Part of course, I cannot discuss it too much because, of course, it's national security sensitive, and of course, it requires that national security sensitiveness. That's all you have to do it. That's all you have to do it on the go. So it requires the sensitiveness of the operation and the inclusiveness of something which we are to get operational about. And that is something which we have to be doing on the go and have to be doing on that go now. And that's all you have to be doing, you know. The total mobile defense theory. The total mobile defense theory system we have to implement. So I'm going to hydrate again, and we're going to switch a bit to that French, because here we made a great linguistic compromise for the French language. And look at those, they're going to rock and roll a little bit of that, and yeah, get a little bit of that color on it. And that's what we got now. HYDRATE, and gotta get it for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, all the truckers on the road. And that's how I rock and roll for the daycare workers who change some of those diapers. Don't forget the daycare workers, change a little bit of those diapers. Support this independent philosopher, artist, athlete's dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the coming of our Imperial Republic, right here on this new table. Atop my Royal Canadians, United States, let's sign the Perpetual Imperial Republican Union. The fusion of Canada and United States via the PPP and the creation of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, just like that end. The constant, of course, is going to have two heads, two faces, two heads. Of course, for total security, total service, total defense, and we're going to rock and roll coast to coast, ocean to ocean, pledge your allegiance, and we're going to get it on now, and that's what we're going to have here, you know. That's what we are, and that's why we drill it. Let's go. Ah, yeah, that felt really good. So now we're about to get it on that French, because where we at, we in La Belle Province. So grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, although financially stressed. Paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, got food and coffee. Gonna go back, get back in that backpack. When I reach back home, I'm gonna eat some of those little goodies, and there's gonna be some good, and there's gonna be some of that goodness, and that's all we have, and that's how we're gonna get that rock and roll, you know, 24/7 for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, electricians, and French province. Bienvenue à Québécois et Québécoises, je suis déjà sur la montagne. La canicule, le 24 juillet, c'est le mois du lion. Je vis une crise, un stress financier, mais à part le stress financier, ça va assez bien. Fait que je peux pas vraiment me plaindre, à part que je vis dans un stress vis-à-vis mes finances. Fait que juste à cause de mes finances, tu sais, c'est juste ce stress financier. Mais j'ai, pour quand je suis de retour chez nous, j'ai de la nourriture, puis bien sûr, j'ai les petites pâtisseries, puis le pain qui a été donné quand j'ai commencé la vidéo. Vous avez vu là-bas dans le coin de Montréal, à Notre-Dame-de-Grâce. Il y a un don, c'est un frigidaire. Et puis ce frigidaire, on remplit, des fois les citoyens remplissent avec des biens qui se consomment, de la nourriture, du jus, du fromage des fois. C'est même des petits laits. J'ai pas eu du grand lait, mais à un moment donné, j'avais eu un 2 litres. J'étais bien content. J'aime ça boire le lait, hein, même que la semaine passée, j'ai remarqué que le lait, j'ai acheté d'habitude de 7,99. C'était rendu 7,79, 7,79 de 4 litres, là. Puis bien sûr, j'étais rendu à 8,89, fait qu'il a augmenté d'1,10 $. Depuis que j'ai acheté la dernière fois à 7,79, ça veut dire que j'ai acheté là 4 mois, fait que là, ça a augmenté, bien sûr. Encore, bien sûr, une augmentation pour le faire dans cette augmentation de salaire qui se trouve vis-à-vis de qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire vis-à-vis de toutes les les quantités de nourriture, d'augmentation, bien sûr, de tous les prix qui augmentent. Bien sûr que moi-même, mon stress est financier maintenant. Vous savez que c'est pas facile pour moi avec l'emploi, mais c'est même ce que je suis bien riche dans les bisous, crédité par la déesse, puis le rock'n'roll, puis d'autres choses. Mais vis-à-vis que je suis neurodivergent, c'est sûr que c'est plus difficile pour moi comme Asperger garder un emploi à long terme. J'ai bien eu des emplois, mais c'est bien sûr à cause de cette neurodivergence qu'on a cette vulnérabilité face à l'emploi, puis à cause que c'est mal compris encore, c'est qu'est-ce que c'est vraiment l'Asperger, c'est une condition de neurodivergence, je vais l'expliquer un peu parce que je vis avec et je peux comprendre que la manière des fois que je m'exprime ou que je communique, ça peut être un peu différent de la manière, bien sûr, d'autres citoyens, concitoyennes qui s'expriment d'une manière ou d'une autre qui font que ça fait que nous, on voit le monde différemment à cause de ces mutations au niveau du cerveau, à cause de ces mutations du cerveau, bien sûr, qui sont des mutations au niveau microscopique. C'est pas vrai, c'est pas visible sur le crâne. Des mutations sont à l'interne. Puis la cause de qu'est-ce qui cause l'Asperger, c'est pas vraiment conclu. Il n'y a pas vraiment de conclusion 100%. Qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger? C'est-tu héréditaire, génétique? Peut-être c'est héréditaire, peut-être c'est génétique, mais il y en a qui disent bien, c'est soit l'environnement ou la génétique héréditaire. Fait que ça peut être une variété, une combinaison des deux, mais il n'y a pas de conclusion exacte vis-à-vis qu'est-ce qui cause exactement l'Asperger, aussi connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que c'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est pas une maladie, il faut juste commencer avec ça. C'est à cause de ces mutations, mais à cause que ces mutations font que nous, on voit le monde différemment. Fait qu'on a de la misère dans certaines choses. On peut être bien vulnérable. Puis avant que je continue, je procède, je dois dire bien sûr la gratitude puis des remerciements à mon ami anonyme qui m'avait donné 2 livres. Je les ai chez nous sur l'Asperger et l'autisme parce que c'est relié à l'Asperger. C'est aussi connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que c'est la même chose, mais c'est juste que moi j'utilise encore la dénomination, la terminologie, le terme Asperger pour ma condition de neurodivergence, mais il y en a qui utilisent l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. C'est quand même, on parle de la même chose, on parle de la même chose. C'est juste 2 manières différentes de dire qu'est-ce que c'est. Fait qu'à cause de ces choses-là, mais à cause de ces caractéristiques qu'on vit, puis encore une fois, je dois dire la gratitude à mon ami anonyme à cause que ces livres m'ont bien ouvert les yeux vis-à-vis mes vulnérabilités, parce que en faisant partie de cette petite communauté de 0,44%, il n'y a pas bien d'Asperger dans le monde, c'est sûr que moi-même, je suis ouvert à des vulnérabilités, puis je suis vulnérable vis-à-vis à d'autres concitoyens, vous, la majorité de citoyens, les neurotypiques qu'on vous appelle, avec lesquels je dois toujours bâtir des ponts, des petits ponts des fois, moyens, gros ou super gros dans ces 4 catégories. C'est sûr que dans ces 4 catégories, il peut y avoir des sous-catégories à ça, là, mais bon, généralement, on parle de la même chose. Fait qu'avec vous, les 99,56%, je dois toujours bâtir des ponts. Puis parce que moi, j'ai pas d'antagonisme envers la majorité des citoyens, c'est juste que moi, je suis différent. Fait que puis nous, les Aspergers, on est différents. Il y a des choses qu'on a de la misère à comprendre, vous comprenez? Puis, je dois remercier mon ami anonyme qui m'a donné un livre qui m'a ouvert les yeux vraiment à profondeur. Qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger? C'est condition de... Ça s'appelle... Le titre du livre, ça s'appelle, je vais vous dire en anglais, Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Fait que je vous le traduis exactement tel quel, là, mot à mot, là, mot par mot. Là. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Fait que apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger, c'est le nom du livre, mais je l'ai lu en anglais. Puis ça m'a ouvert les yeux, là, parce que j'ai dit, ben, j'ai des vulnérabilités, je suis vulnérable là, dans certaines choses, parce qu'il y a certaines choses que je me rends même pas compte que, mettons, quand je suis peut-être en danger, ou des gens qui m'aiment pas, des gens qui me veulent le mal, des gens qui veulent me faire mal, des gens, bien sûr, qui veulent que je sois... qui veulent le mal, qui me veulent... qui veulent le mal, qui me veulent le mal. Des choses comme ça, c'est juste ça. Ou qui ne m'aiment pas, mais que je me rends pas compte, des choses de même. Fait que j'ai appris beaucoup de sagesse vis-à-vis à ce que je suis, parce que moi, ça faisait longtemps que des gens, des citoyens, concitoyens m'avaient diagnostiqué, m'avaient dit que j'ai l'Asperger, mais j'ai toujours refusé de l'accepter vraiment, de l'intégrer vraiment, puis de dire oui, parce que c'est un stigme, hein, c'est comme cette différence, ça fait que... Puis oui, dans certaines choses, c'est sûr que on est moins capable. On a des vulnérabilités, hein. On est moins capable. Les choses sociales, la communication sociale, non verbale, ces choses-là sont difficiles pour nous. Puis on a 3 problèmes majeurs. Ces 3 problèmes majeurs pour nous, les Aspergers, c'est le manque d'amis. Hein. Le manque d'amis. Je veux pas avoir bien mes amis, mais juste des amis avec bénéfice seulement. L'emploi, bien sûr. L'emploi. Il est à 80% ce pourcentage de sans-emploi. Hein. C'est énorme, c'est inacceptable vraiment. Là. C'est inacceptable sérieusement. Là. C'est 11 fois plus que vous, les citoyens. Là. Les 99%. Puis moi, j'ai eu bien de l'emploi, j'ai bien aimé. Ça a duré, mais pas duré un coup d'emploi que j'ai bien aimé, mais ça a duré 2-3 mois, 2-3 semaines, un couple de jours, 4 mois. Mais... Parce que même durant la COVID, j'ai eu bien de l'emploi que j'ai aimé, mais ça n'a pas duré longtemps. Fait que c'est juste ces choses-là qui sont un peu plus difficiles avec nous, avec la gestion de ces caractéristiques. Mais j'aime ça venir ici, à ma deuxième maison, ma maîtresse, puis nous, les Aspergers, on a comme des routines rituelles, là, des rituels, routines rituels, mais puis on adore à ces routines rituelles, puis même qu'on a le problème, un autre problème, c'est que la dépression puis le suicide, c'est très élevé, c'est 9 fois plus que vous, la majorité des gens. Là. Moi, j'ai été pendant un couple d'années en dépression, j'étais suicidaire, j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. J'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. J'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. En traversant le Canada de côte à côte, en 2017, ça a fait établir un esprit de corps solide hein, avec les Québécois, le Canada et les États-Unis. Ça m'a vraiment ouvert les yeux. Puis cet événement-là, ça m'a complètement changé ma vie. Puis j'ai commencé à m'entraîner. J'ai perdu entre 80 et 90 livres. Puis j'ai vécu cette dépression. J'ai eu la COVID, j'ai survécu, je me suis fait vacciner. Puis maintenant, juste un stress financier, mais je suis toujours ouvert pour l'emploi. Puis je prends beaucoup de fierté dans mon travail qui se retrouve à être dans ce qu'on appelle les intérêts spéciaux chez les aspis, aussi connus comme obsessifs, mais ça sert à rien que je dise obsessif. Car obsessif, c'est plutôt pour du point de vue neurotypique, non? Mais nous, quand on s'engage avec intensité, avec super concentration, puis super dedans, dans nos intérêts spéciaux, c'est dans nos intérêts spéciaux, c'est là que on se retrouve à être à la maison puis tu sais comme c'est là qu'on est bien, c'est là que les aspis, il faut être encouragé dans ces choses-là. Même si ça paraît pour vous là que comme moi, si vous venez chez nous, puis je passe, puis j'étudie, puis je m'en vais à regarder des postes de télé pour voir qu'est-ce que les ministres des Affaires étrangères de la Russie, de la Chine, du Japon, des autres pays, puis les nouvelles d'autres pays, puis je regarde, puis j'analyse, puis je suis super concentré, super dedans. Puis je fais des analyses en géopolitique, parce que la géopolitique, c'est mon intérêt spécial. Puis je peux en parler pendant des heures, je peux faire des analyses, puis même que je suis un analyste et théoricien indépendant en géopolitique, parce que j'ai pas de diplôme universitaire là-dessus, là. Mais j'ai gradué, j'ai mon diplôme d'études secondaires, puis j'ai bien du travail que j'ai fait, puis j'ai la preuve pour ce que je vais dire. Qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant, là? Je l'ai prévu en octobre-novembre 2019. En novembre 2019. En octobre-novembre 2019, c'est sûr que c'est des analyses et théories un peu académiques, sophistiquées, mais pour faire un résumé, c'est que j'avais prévu qu'à cause du fait que bien des pays, bien des régions, bien des nations États n'ont pas été capables de résoudre leurs problèmes du 20e siècle, surtout durant la guerre froide, que ces conflits vont reprendre. C'est ça une des parties principales. C'était pas la même, c'était pas juste ça, mais c'était d'autres facteurs, là. Mais c'était ça. Puis c'est ça qui arrive, hein. La Russie et l'Ukraine, c'est un conflit, là, du 20e siècle, de la guerre froide qui a recommencé, hein. En Israël puis en Palestine, Hamas, l'organisation Hamas, ils ont été fondée des années 80, durant la guerre froide. Potentiellement, la Chine puis le Taïwan, c'est encore du 20e siècle. J'ai prévu qu'ils auraient commencé dans le 21e siècle. Le Pakistan puis l'Inde, c'est encore des conflits qui n'ont pas été capables d'avoir de résolution. Puis comme ici, que je dis toujours, mais on a fait le grand compromis du français pour avoir la continuité de l'harmonie, de la paix, du futur du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, pour avoir l'harmonie. On a fait ce grand compromis du français au Québec. La langue, tu sais. Juste tantôt, justement, je parlais parce que j'avais vu, tu sais, les collants, parce qu'ils disaient oui pour un vote indépendant, séparatiste. Fait que c'est ça, je peux vous commissionner pour faire une analyse là-dessus, là. Une analyse, puis moi-même, je vous le dis, moi, je voterai non. Mais s'il y aurait un vote oui, je resterai dessus, peut-être. Puis je ferai encore le travail que je fais maintenant pour aider, bien sûr, le Québec en tant qu'indépendant, pour pouvoir contribuer dans la géopolitique de manière positive. Par mes théories, bien sûr, par mes philosophies. Parce que moi, je pourrais être un bon philosophe du point de vue de la sécurité, de la défense, des stratégies de sécurité, de défense, puis de diplomatie, mais peut-être c'est être un peu de ce point de vue plus que d'autres choses. Parce qu'à cause de l'Asperger, j'aurais peut-être des empêchements, comme quand ça vient, mettons, à la police, puis faire peut-être des choses plus philosophiques, que, mettons, les corps policiers y impliquent, ils adoptent comme stratégie, comme philosophie, peut-être. Celle-là, je serais bon. Comme dans un sport, mettons, hockey, là, que j'adore, le hockey, la danse, c'est mon sport préféré, parce que moi, les intérêts spéciaux, ça fait partie aussi, parallèlement à la géopolitique, c'est le sport. L'entraînement physique que je préfère moi-même, c'est la danse. Vous savez que je fais aussi partie de la communauté LGBTQ, mais parallèlement, bien sûr, être dedans, puis c'est le sport, et bien sûr, je serais plus bon arbitre, tu sais, comme en tant qu'arbitre, à cause des philosophies et de ça, je pourrais peut-être comme plus comme un arbitre, tu sais, en vis-à-vis d'un arbitre, mettons, les corps de sécurité, comme l'armée, les forces armées, l'armée, militaire, corps de police, et les citoyens, citoyennes. Tu sais, c'est un point de la philosophie. Mes philosophies sont, bien sûr, pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Puis, bien sûr, la question du référendum, ça a été en 95. Je pense qu'il y a une marge de 2% seulement. Puis le non qui a gagné, c'était pas une grosse marge, là. Puis le dernier, c'est en 1980. Mais je voterai non. Moi, je voterai non, là. Mais vous savez, mes philosophies sont pour qu'on se fusionne avec les États-Unis. Mais qu'est-ce que j'aimerais, puis vous savez, celle-là, hein? Qu'est-ce que j'aimerais, là, c'est s'il y aurait un vote oui, là. Ça serait que il n'y aurait plus mention du roi, puis la reine, puis l'argent, puis tout ça, ça changerait. Celle-là, je suis le premier à dire, parce que bien sûr, je dis toujours, le roi est absent. Fait que, vous le savez, celle-là, moi je dis toujours, c'est le temps pour la République, là. C'était peut-être, on aurait dû faire une grosse réforme constitutionnelle bien longtemps. Ça fait peut-être les années 84, quand que 6-6, le service de sécurité est intégré, ou en 1984, là, ou 89, ou 96, ou bien, c'est dans le 20e siècle, je veux dire, à la fin du 20e siècle, là, à la fin du 20e siècle, là, pour dire, là, je ne sais pas exactement en 1984, ou 89, ou 96, ou 2000, là, mais 99, là. Mais à la fin du 20e siècle, on aurait dû mettre fin là, à ces choses du roi Charles, du roi, ben c'était la reine avant, là, mais je veux dire la monarchie, tout ça, on aurait dû se débarrasser, à mon avis, des années 80, en fin des années 80, à la fin du 20e siècle. Sinon, ben au début du 21e siècle, là, c'est là, la monarchie, là, toutes ces choses-là. Parce que on aurait dû établir une république, à mon avis, dans le 20e siècle, ou dans le 21e siècle. Puis, comme je dis maintenant, le roi est absent. Puis ça, j'aimerais ça ne me dérangerait pas partout. Ça serait peut-être une affaire que je voterais peut-être oui à cause de ça, là, mais je voterais oui à cause que je veux rien savoir du roi, puis du roi Charles, là, c'est plus vous, là, ma famille, le bon peuple, là, puis ça faisait 50 ans qu'il n'est pas venu au trône du roi, là, au trône du roi, tout ça, c'est quelque chose que c'est quand même des choses illusoires aussi. Là, peut-être les Aspergers, nous, on est quand même peut-être comme des extraterrestres un peu parmi vous, là, pour peut-être briser certaines illusions que vous avez, peut-être les 99,56% où vous dites de la réalité que je connais de la géopolitique, c'est qu'il faut avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis, premièrement. Le roi Charles, il ne va pas l'Angleterre, ils ont leurs problèmes déjà économiques. Ils ne vont pas substituer entre 75 et 80% de nos exportations là, qu'on exporte du Québec, du Canada. Là. Je veux dire, il faut être réaliste. Là, je l'aime pas Trump, j'aurais voté comme Biden, mais dans mes autres vies antérieures, comme j'étais né homme-femme, j'étais né aux États-Unis, fait que c'est notre cousin, il faut se fusionner avec eux, on est des Nord-Américains, on est Québécois, Canadiens, Nord-Américains. Je suis mieux pour qu'on se fusionne avec les États-Unis le plus fortement possible. C'est pour ça, bien sûr, ma vision, bien sûr, c'est pour le faire, bien sûr, dans ces choses, qu'on soit, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence, que c'est, bien sûr, une utilisation de avoir-faire dans ce point de convergence qu'on est, bien sûr, rendu aujourd'hui pour être de la point de contingence sur la forêt. Puis je vous dis, bien sûr, que ma TRD, c'est la solution. Dans d'autres choses, moi-même, je suis médiocre comme ça. J'ai de la misère dans certaines choses, mais quand ça vient à la géopolitique, c'est sûr que j'excelle mes théories, mes protocoles. Je fais appel depuis bien des années pour faire l'implémentation. Je suis artiste, je suis athlète, je suis philosophe, je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant et je fais du développement, des stratégies. C'est un stratège géopolitique nord-américain, par exemple. Et je peux bien sûr incorporer l'OTAN, là, parce que mon travail, c'est limite l'Amérique du Nord, le collectif nord-américain que j'appelle, et l'OTAN, parce qu'on fait partie quand même de l'OTAN intégralement, l'organisation transatlantique. Bon. Fait que c'est de ce point de vue-là, mais c'est nord-américain centrique. Mais c'est sûr qu'on fait partie de l'OTAN. Fait que c'est ces choses-là, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on se rencontre dans le domaine de cette proposition d'où qu'on vit maintenant, bien sûr, dans ce point là où que je suis sur la montagne. Puis je m'en dirige maintenant chez nous. Puis moi-même, j'envisage que peut-être il y aura une résolution demain. Peut-être déjà à soir, après minuit, avant minuit. Parce que là, si 35% des tarifs s'en vient déjà avec le stress économique qu'on vit, là, c'est énorme, là, 35% là, des tarifs, ça veut dire qu'ils vont absorber moins de nos biens. Puis on dépend là, de l'exportation. Quand ça vient à l'exportation, on dépend du marché américain. Il faut être réaliste. C'est sûr que moi-même, des fois, j'ai des rêves. Mon rêve qui se manifeste depuis des années. Vous regardez mes vidéos, vous allez en savoir de quoi j'en parle. Je vous en parle maintenant. Le rêve du royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, c'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé. Quand on dit pour l'Empire, le nouveau Empire qu'on va constituer des 63, les 10 provinces, 53 territoires, qu'on va fusionner pour les 63, ça va être, bien sûr, dans ce point de compromis, d'où qu'on vient, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence, pour qu'on soit, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence, pour savoir où qu'on est rendu avec ce point d'expression, où qu'on est rendu dans ce point de réalité socio-économique. Parce que la réalité, bien sûr, socio-économique, c'est de cette manière qu'on s'exprime. C'est une réalité aussi mathématique du point de vue des finances. On est proche d'avoir un effondrement financier, là, peut-être demain, qui commence. Parce que dans les 4 points majeurs des pressions économiques qui nous pressent fondamentalement, le Canada et les États-Unis en ce moment, moi-même, je suis en stress financièrement, je vis un stress financier, du point de vue de ce stress financier avec l'argent, c'est sûr que j'ai pas bien de l'argent, mais c'est des choses bien sûr que je dois quand même le faire. Point d'autres choses, je suis quand même en bonne santé, je m'entraîne, je me garde. Ben, c'est ça que j'ai ma routine, hein, puisque c'est temps depuis que j'ai sorti de ma dépression, puis que j'allais déménager. Je pensais que c'était en 2016, mais il paraît que c'était en 2025. Fait que ça veut dire que ce mois de juillet, ça fait 10 ans que j'ai déménagé. J'habitais sur l'île de Montréal encore, à Côte-des-Neiges. Il y avait une petite place, il y avait beaucoup de moisissures. C'était une place où il y avait beaucoup de moisissures. C'était comme une petite cellule de prison. C'était petit, dans ce Côte-des-Neiges. Puis, je dis souvent, j'ai servi mon temps. Puis, j'ai de la misère dans ma mémoire. Là. J'ai de la misère à me souvenir de ma vie avant le printemps 2014. Des fois, la perte de mémoire, ça fait causer, bien sûr. C'est à cause de... Je sais pas si je buvais beaucoup d'alcool. D'habitude, l'alcoolisme, la drogue forte. Ou j'étais attaqué par surprise. J'étais tombé à terre dans un métro de Montréal. Puis j'étais tout ensanglé. Hein. J'étais tout ensanglé. Puis j'avais la tête qui était cognée sur le ciment. J'avais le bras droit disloqué. Tu sais. J'avais le bras droit disloqué, bien sûr. Fait que mon bras droit il était disloqué, bien sûr. J'ai toute l'épaule. Fait que toutes ces choses-là, cet événement-là, il faut que je retrouve, bien sûr, les archives à l'hôpital général juif. Il faut que je retrouve ces archives à l'hôpital général juif. Je sais pas exactement c'était quand. Mais bon. Puis après ça, j'ai survécu la COVID. Qu'est-ce qui est le plus important? C'est mon travail dans géopolitique, artistique, de rock'n'roll pas mal, un peu de la comédie, mais car je suis artiste. Mais j'ai l'Asperger's, donc j'ai vécu qu'est-ce que les Asperger's vivent. L'isolation, la dépression, le taux de suicide est élevé. Puis 80% là, des Asperger's, puis nous on fait partie d'une petite communauté. C'est inacceptable. Hein? C'est 11 fois plus que vous, la majorité des citoyens. 80%, là. 8-0, 4 sur 5, 8 sur 10 des aspis n'ont pas d'emploi, sont sans emploi. Il faut faire du travail, on a du travail à faire, mes chers. C'est totalement inacceptable. Hein. Moi, je suis quelqu'un qui n'aime pas la violence. Hein. J'aime pas la violence, Je suis hyper vigilant, je suis intense, je suis concentré, je suis super dedans. Je vis avec mes cicatrices, je vis avec l'Asperger, je vis avec cette crise financière, mais je suis toujours ouvert pour les affaires. Toujours ouvert pour des amis. Nous, les Asperger, vous savez qu'on n'a pas beaucoup d'amis, mais je veux pas vraiment d'amis pour en avoir des amis de même. C'est juste des amis avec bénéfice. Si vous voulez faire des échanges de massages, là, je fais partie de la communauté LGBTQ, messieurs, madame, androgènes, pansexuels, vous êtes noir, blanc, homme, femme, vous voulez me faire de l'amour, il faut que vous ayez l'âge, hein, le dragon arc-en-ciel, vous devrez avoir l'âge adulte, par exemple. On parle d'âge adulte ou des amis avec bénéfice, ou prêter allégeance. Légion, c'est la chanson, je ne suis pas Samson, je suis dragon arc-en-ciel. Là. Le dragon arc-en-ciel, je suis pas Samson, j'adore le rock'n'roll, je suis pas un démon. Hein. Prêtez allégeance, Légion, vous êtes famille. 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 Prêtez allégeance, Légion, vous êtes famille, puis c'est des choses comme ça qu'il faut qu'on se donne, et dans ces choses comme ça qu'il faut qu'on se donne, et pour se donner, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence qu'on vit, bien sûr, c'est toujours la situation que je vis moi-même, puis c'est sûr qu'il faut que je discute de la TRD, c'est important, parce que en tant que mon travail dans le géopolitique, puis j'ai la preuve hein, pour ce que je dis maintenant, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Je l'ai prévu en 2019, octobre-novembre. J'ai même créé, en conséquence, j'ai créé un système d'entraînement physique pour y aller, bien sûr, avec les événements qu'on vit aujourd'hui, soit de Troisième Guerre mondiale. C'est sûr. Puis depuis 2018, je fais appel à Donald Trump de me combattre dans un combat de boxe. En effet, j'ai les gants de boxe rouges en arrière dans mon sac que mon ami anonyme m'avait donné, exactement quand j'ai bien sûr fait appel à Donald Trump de combat dans un combat de boxe. Puis je fais appel bien sûr pour la construction d'un colisée bien sûr sur la frontière Canada-États-Unis pour être 11 fois plus grand que le Caesars Palace où mes 49ers y ont perdu dans le Super Bowl contre les Baltimore, les Ravens de Baltimore. Fait que on a beaucoup de travail à faire ensemble, probablement bâtir la pyramide de la maison du dragon, le temple de la déesse oubliée. Oui, déesse comme Dieu, mais déesse. Et bien sûr, le palais du peuple arc-en-ciel pour ma communauté de neurodivergents, Asperger's ou d'autres neurodivergents, et ma communauté LGBTQ. C'est 4 bâtiments que je veux bâtir. Fait que ça commence en saluant les travailleurs en construction, parce que c'est eux autres, mes frères et sœurs. Les travailleurs en construction, puis le soutien déjà, il y a beaucoup de travail à faire. Puis là, je vous discute de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Super important que je vous la discute. Bon. Là, il y a 4 problèmes qui nous pressent. Puis avant que je discute de la TRD, je veux vraiment vous dire, puis vous parler d'une autre petite Une autre thèse, si vous voulez, de la géopolitique, c'est bien sûr... attention, il faut mettre sur les freins comme il faut, parce que c'est les piétons. Hein. Puis, bon, là, dans la géopolitique, je vais faire une déclaration que vous devrez dire oui à cette déclaration, que vous soyez Québécois, Canadien, Québécois, que vous même si vous voterez oui là, dans le référendum, il faut que vous dites oui à ça. Et les États-Unis aussi, il faut qu'ils disent oui à ça. Et bien sûr, dans ce point-là qu'on fait un chance, dans ce point de compromis qu'on doit faire, bien sûr, c'est ces choses qu'on doit les faire. Ben, OK, ça c'est la déclaration. Nous, là, Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, qu'on soit un pays indépendant ou non, laissez-moi écrire l'hymne national, le rock'n'roll, au moins, pas tout l'hymne national, là, mais au moins 2-3 phrases, s'il vous plaît. On vote oui, là. Ça va être quelque chose du bleu ciel. C'est de la danse, c'est Louis Cyr et Céline et Dragon. C'est pas de Dragon, là, pas de Céline, pas de Louis Cyr, là, ça va être juste comme ça. Ouais, je sais pas, peut-être. En tout cas. Fait que nous, Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, les États-Unis ensemble, il faut que, quand ça vient, bien sûr, à l'intérêt, bien sûr, l'intérêt, bien sûr, des relations étrangères. Je ne parle pas de domestique, là. Je vous parle pas de domestique. Fait que quand ça vient aux relations étrangères, fait que, bien sûr, qu'est-ce qu'il y a à faire avec les relations étrangères? C'est la diplomatie, les échanges, bien sûr, toutes ces choses-là, bien sûr, qui ont à faire avec les relations étrangères, tu sais. C'est toutes ces affaires-là qui ont relation avec les relations étrangères, bien sûr, pour le Canada, le Québec, le Canada, bien sûr, et les États-Unis, c'est réciproque envers nous autres, et nous envers eux, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations de manière économique, des finances, de la diplomatie, du tourisme, bien sûr, de la défense, etc., 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 etc. Il n'y a pas de non à ça. Vous ne pouvez pas dire peut-être à ça. Vous comprenez? Ça, il faut que... C'est juste oui. C'est juste oui. Vous pouvez juste dire oui à ça. Juste dire oui. Juste dire oui. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de non à ça. Vous comprenez? Il n'y a pas de non. Il n'y a pas de non, vous comprenez? Il n'y a pas de non. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de non, tu sais. Oh. Fuck. Ouais, fucking non. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de non, vous comprenez? Vous pouvez juste dire oui. Vous pouvez juste dire oui. Il est où, je veux dire? Vous pouvez juste dire oui à cette déclaration que je viens de faire. Nous, le Québec, Canada, Québec, notre intérêt principalement, en numéro 1 d'importance, là, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, commerciales, de finances avec les États-Unis. Et c'est réciproque pour les États-Unis envers nous. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de oui et peut-être. Comprenez? C'est la réelle géopolitique, ça. Cette déclaration, il faut que tous nos chefs dirigeants, des États-Unis, puis du Québec, puis du Canada, il faut que vous dites oui à ça. Sinon, on ne peut pas avancer dans la géopolitique, on ne peut pas faire un progrès. C'est la réalité, là. À cause de la géographie, on a 2 océans, l'Atlantique, le Pacifique, à l'est, à l'ouest. Principalement aussi, puis notre histoire commune, si on veut dire, l'histoire commune, notre développement commun et tout ce qui nous entoure dans cette belle province, dans ce Canada, dans l'Amérique du Nord. Fait que quand ça vient à la politique externe, il faut qu'on soit c'est la même longueur d'onde, c'est la même fréquence de dire oui. Vous ne pouvez pas dire non ou peut-être, même pas peut-être. C'est oui, 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 oui. Encore une fois, la déclaration est que je parle pas de domestique, intérieur, je parle de la politique externe. Fait que nous, les Québécois canadiens, le Canada, le Québec, puis c'est réciproque pour les États-Unis envers nous, quand ça vient à la politique externe, en première place, notre intérêt principalement, là, dans la politique externe, en laissant d'autre côté tous les autres intérêts là, externes diplomatiques, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, de finances socioculturelles, là, de défense, de diplomatie, l'un envers l'autre. Comprenez? That's it, that's all. Il faut dire oui à ça. Oui, c'est sûr, c'est clair, c'est oui, c'est 100%, c'est la géopolitique. Si nos chefs dirigeants de la politique de la gauche, de la droite, du centre, centriste, de droite, de la centre-droite, centre-gauche, centre, de la droite ou de la gauche ou du centre-droit, centre-droite, c'est les 5, là. Puis le centre dans le milieu, parce que du centre, il y a le centre-droit, centre de la centre-droite, centre-droite, centre-gauche, et à la gauche et à la droite, fait que ces 4-là, centre-gauche, gauche, centre-droit, gauche, puis entre ces deux, centre-gauche et centre-droite, et droite et centre, et gauche, c'est le centre. Fait qu'on va le spectre de la politique en 5. Les centristes, comme moi-même, mon centrisme, par exemple, il est intégré à mes théories, mes protocoles, mes initiatives, par exemple. Fait que c'est un centrisme du 20e siècle, puis post-Covid aussi. Post les prédictions que j'ai faites en 2019 aussi. Fait que vis-à-vis de la réalité d'aujourd'hui, un centrisme de 2025. Et nord-américain aussi. Fondamentalement, pro-centrisme nord-américain. Parce que tant qu'on n'a pas la fusion que j'envisage, on ne peut pas avancer vers l'extérieur. Fait que de l'externe, de la politique du monde, tu sais. Bon. Fait que, il faut dire oui à ça. Nos chefs, qui soient centre-gauche, gauche, centre-droite, droite, centre, il faut qu'ils disent oui. De la géopolitique. C'est ça, sinon on peut pas. À moins que vous soyez, à moins que vous soyez extrême de la droite, là, je parle pas d'extrême droite, extrême gauche, là. J'ai laissé de côté l'extrême gauche, l'extrême droite. J'ai laissé de côté ces deux extrêmes, par exemple, OK? Dans un contexte non extrémiste de la gauche ni de la droite, je parle. Cette réalité géopolitique est 100% réelle. C'est avoir les mêmes relations avec le Canada et les États-Unis, vice-versa, c'est notre intérêt fondamental quand ça vient, bien sûr, à la politique externe. Fait qu'on peut pas dire non à ça. On peut pas dire non à ça, tu sais. C'est juste oui. C'est juste oui. C'est juste oui. Bon on ferme ce cas-là, puis on avance vers la TRD maintenant. Là, la TRD, c'est la théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est la solution qui peut nous sauver, ou je dis c'est la seule solution, mais en principe, quelque chose qui ressemble à ma TRD, théorie à la refusion de la dette est la solution, OK? La TRD, ça inclut la théorie d'intégration monétaire, ce qui est la théorie que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation dans les années 90. Pourquoi je me prononce ainsi, puis je dis que c'est la seule solution, quelque chose qui ressemble, car aujourd'hui, ce 24 juillet 2025, on a 4 problèmes majeurs de l'économie. Dans quel ordre que vous voulez, bien sûr. Dans n'importe quel ordre que vous voulez, bien sûr. C'est dans un ordre que vous voulez, bien sûr, à le faire puis à l'être, bien sûr. C'est dans cet ordre qu'on va faire, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence où qu'on vit, bien sûr, à le faire ensemble. Fait que le problème, c'est que les loyers augmentent. Même mon loyer a augmenté de 10 $. Je dirais pas exactement combien, mais je veux dire que 10 maximum pour moi-même. Ça peut être 10 exact. Mon loyer a augmenté, je peux pas me plaindre dans mon cas. Car je vois que c'est quand même une augmentation justifiée, là. C'était pas énorme, là. C'est pas en dessous de... Je peux pas me plaindre vis-à-vis de l'augmentation. C'est dans le pourcentage légal, même en bas du maximum de pourcentage légal. L'autre problème que l'augmentation des loyers, c'est bien sûr que le coût de la vie, ça augmente. À tous les jours, les prix de quelque chose, du pain, du beurre, du lait, du miel, tous les biens augmentent. En grosse partie, ça augmente, les prix augmentent, OK? La stagnation des salaires, troisième point, encore une fois, dans n'importe quel ordre. Puis, les cartes de crédit, puis ça s'applique le Canada et les États-Unis ensemble. Le Canada et les États-Unis ensemble. Les cartes de crédit, là, même maintenant, quelqu'un à Montréal, citoyen, consommateur, est en train de faire les cartes de crédit. Ils sont en train de faire les cartes de crédit. De Montréal à San Francisco en ce moment. Parce qu'il y a les zones de temps. Là. Fait qu'à San Francisco, il y a quand même, je sais pas s'ils sont encore dans le coucher du soleil, je pense qu'il y a encore du soleil un peu. Fait que, bon, puis on est jeudi, fait que ça peut être quand même, ça dépend chez les danseuses. Parce que c'est jeudi, fait que c'est jeudi l'été, là, fait que c'est possible qu'il y a des camionneurs, s'il vous plaît, donner des prix réguliers, donner des réductions de rabais du prix pour les camionneurs. Fait que ces 4 problèmes-là qui nous affectent. Ces 4 problèmes-là qui nous affectent. Ces 4 problèmes majeurs économiques qui nous affectent. Fait que dans ce point de désaffectation, bien sûr, de ces 4 problèmes, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je dise moi-même dans ce compromis, bien sûr, que je sois dans ce compromis, dans cette situation d'avoir de la jurisprudence, bien sûr, pour le faire de vivre aujourd'hui dans ce moment, ou que je suis moi-même de point de vue de la solution, bien sûr, c'est une solution qu'il faut dire oui. Il faut dire oui à cette solution. La TRD, on n'a pas le choix. Hein. Implémenter la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est la seule et unique solution. On n'a pas le choix de faire l'implémentation de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. T'sais. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Qui inclut la théorie d'intégration monétaire à cause qu'on est peut-être proche d'avoir un effondrement des finances. C'est possible que demain, ça commence un effondrement des finances. T'sais. C'est possible que demain, ça ait un effondrement des finances. On va prendre toute, je vous l'explique maintenant, on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000 de côte à côte. Mon 10 000, ton 10 000, de côte à côte. On va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée des États-Unis, du Canada dans la devise des États-Unis, du dollar états-unien. On va faire l'addition ensemble avec la devise des États-Unis. Fait qu'on va faire la conversion ensemble. On va faire la conversion et l'addition. Cette addition, on va faire la création d'une nouvelle banque, hein, comme qu'on fait en Europe, mais pour l'Amérique du Nord, la Banque de la République impériale. On va mettre en circulation une nouvelle monnaie qu'on va appeler l'UI. U point unité, A point échange, U point universel. L'UI, UI, UI. On s'obstinera pas, car en anglais, c'est pareil. UI, 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 qui va avoir la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. U point unité, A point échange, U point universel. UI, UI, UI. U point unité, A point échange, U point universel. U point unité, point échange, point universel. L'unité d'échange universelle aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. Aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. UI, UI, UI. U point unité, point échange, point universel. Ça prend un partenariat public-privé pour le faire. Bien sûr, avec toutes les institutions qui existent, la technologie, les banques bancaires, de partenariat public-privé, l'unité d'échange universelle. On va faire la création de cette nouvelle monnaie. Puis par ma théorie, on va rebâtir l'infrastructure du Québec, des États-Unis, des ponts. Bien sûr, des ponts. On va faire bâtir les 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. Mais c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'on va faire. Bâtir les 44 tunnels. Dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, on va bâtir les 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. Dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, pour la continuité de la collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, ces 44 tunnels vont être des complexes massifs qui vont être inspirés par les montagnes Cheyennes, bien sûr, par les montagnes Cheyennes, par Paradoxe, là, que j'ai aussi inspiré par les tunnels d'Hamas, qui ont bâti des centaines de kilomètres en dessous du geyser. Là. Mais pour nous autres, moi, je suis pas un partisan, je pense que de Hamas, rien pas tout de ça, là, mais juste parce que ces tunnels qui ont bâti, qui ont été mis de plus en plus depuis le 7 octobre, qui ont été mis en connaissance, parce qu'ils ont bâti des centaines de kilomètres en dessous, là, c'est énorme, là, c'est des systèmes de tunnels, c'est comme un village, comme une ville, là, tout en dessous de gazon. Là. En tout cas, fait que nous, on va bâtir ces 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire vis-à-vis et par ma TRD. On va financer les gens au tourisme, on va finir avec la frontière. On va enlever la frontière, on va fusionner le Canada et les États-Unis dans un terme de partenariat public-privé. on va faire cette nouvelle monnaie, on va faire cette nouvelle constitution impériale, signons le 11 septembre sur la montagne, cette union impériale perpétuelle, le 11 septembre, union impériale perpétuelle, le 11 septembre, union perpétuelle, le 11 septembre, signons le 11 septembre, cette union perpétuelle. Et bien sûr, faisons cette union perpétuelle, catégorisons, faisons cette union perpétuelle et faisons aussi une histoire de réhabilitation de la population criminelle par le financement du tourisme, par le financement de l'entraînement physique public, Faisons bien sûr cette constitution universelle, faisons bien sûr construire les 44 tunnels et bien sûr la création des 2 institutions de partenariat public-privé, soit l'armée du dragon, officiel le nom, pour la Ligue impériale de services sécurité défense, intégrée avec tous les services de sécurité qui existent, et la Ligue impériale de la danse pour l'éducation environnementale et l'action environnementale. Fait que ces 2 institutions de partenariat public nouvelles pour l'empire des 63, prêter allégeance, les gens vous êtes famés.